Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are live once again in the DSR Racing League here on 3Y TV, and tonight we get to go a little right, we get to go a little left, we get to hit the brakes, we get to downshift a little bit as well. As tonight we're taking on the Indy Road Course in the last Dash for Cash. And of course, I am joined by my main man, my co-host for the night, Carlos Acasa. And Carlos, how excited are you to hit our one and only road course this season?
I'm pretty excited. This is a track I'm not really too familiar with in the grand scheme of things, but it's very fun. The fact that we're still going to go into a road race, the one and only road race, and not only that, but this is also the final Dash for Cash race of the season. And well, if we're going to talk about the Dash for Cash drivers, we also got to mention the fact that we also have, reserves just in case the driver is unable to make it. And we did find out last week in the post-race interview that Seth Rawls was not going to be able to make it here tonight. So we did have to go and grab a reserve driver, backup number one per se. So Josh Robinson is now the fourth Dash for Cash participant here tonight. Well, we saw Ty McIntosh get the win last week. He earned a spot in the Dash for Cash here tonight. Nick In-Dee-Car finished in second, and Seth Rawls in third, but is not going to be participating. And fourth is Johnny Eckert. So your four Dash for Cash drivers are McIntosh, In-Dee-Car, Eckert, and Robinson. But it's going to be fun. So that's one of the season. And well, how many races do we have until the playoffs start?
Carlos, I believe we only have two races after this race here tonight. After this race here at the road course, of course, we go to Dover, Delaware for the Delaware 200. That's a 200 lap race there in our ninth race of the season, Carlos. And then to end out the regular season, we go to everybody's favorite track, a track that everybody knows that's close to all racing fans, and that's Charlotte Motor Speedway to end out the regular season here. So, Carlos, really only two races to go here in the regular season, but we're taking a look at those point standings there in the right-hand corner of your screen here on 3Y TV. And Carlos, there's a few drivers that are right on the bubble of those point standings. Who are some of the names that have had a good season, and who are some of the names that could really improve here these last couple races?
Well, you were talking about this earlier in the practice session when we were still getting set up. You talked about Ben Hong and how he's currently outside the playoff bracket, and I feel, just as you do, that Meng Hong is a driver that's definitely fast enough to be a playoff driver. So he really has to step it up within these next two races. He's not really that far out of it right now, but another bad race here, another bad race at Dover, and in the next race, and well, that's it. That's your playoffs right there. Short season.
Yeah, and taking a look at those point standings as well, some of the names that jump out to me here tonight. Riley Marabello will not be in action here tonight. He is currently in a comfortable spot in the point standings, even if he does get a provisional here tonight. So go ahead and lock him into those playoffs. But also we'll see that Andrew Hess, if he does take the course here tonight, there is talk about him also taking a provisional in tonight's race as well. So those are two names that are in the point standings that are inside of that cut line, that if they don't race here tonight, of course, it might shift them down a little bit. But I feel like Riley Marabello has all but locked himself into those playoffs there, Carlos.
It'll be interesting to see who can and can't get in. Of course, In-Dee-Car, Mr. Five-time winner here, has a good shot at. I think at this point, even if he does have a lot of bad races remaining, he's pretty much in. Talking about Paul-Jiménez, Ogo, Marabello, Weeks, Rawls. Really after Eckert, any of the drivers in there, 10th and back, really have kind of yet to prove a type of scenario to kind of get in. But of course, we also do stage racing here. And remember, no cautions for stage breaks. However, tonight there is going to be a caution. There is a reserved caution at lap 17. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, you're not really safe right now if you're like maybe 7th and back. But definitely not safe if you're Andrew Hess, Riley, McIntosh. Any of those three drivers right now.
No, and taking a look back at last week's races, Pocono, as we're taking a look at some of the drivers taking the track here on the road course. Last week we really saw the emotion at Ty McIntosh. We were able to have that webcam point of view from Ty as he crossed that start-finish line first. We saw the Tiger Woods fist bumps. We saw the excitement from him after winning that race, his first race win of the season there. He outshined all of his Shift Esports teammates there to pick up the win there in that 10 machine. But you know, we also saw, Carlos, we saw Nick Indelicato creep all the way up the grid. I believe he came up from about 8 or 9 spots there in the last 20 laps and almost had a chance at taking Ty at the last couple laps there. I believe we had like 2 or 3 more laps to go. Nick probably would have got another victory on this season the way he was running there at the end of the race. But we saw the emotion out of Ty winning that race. But again, as you mentioned, Carlos, he's right on that cut line, right on the bottom of those point standings.
Yeah, just because you have a couple good races here and there doesn't mean that you're necessarily locked in. Just because you win doesn't necessarily mean you're locked in. So Ty McIntosh, currently last driver in that playoff picture, he still needs to come out here and perform. And we don't know if he's a good road racer or not. This is the first time we're going to a road race with these cars in this league. And of course, the only time we're going to a road race in this car in this league this season. So this is a pretty tough scenario for a lot of the drivers who may not necessarily even be familiar with turning right at a racetrack.
Yeah, turning right, turning left. You have to downshift a couple of times. You have to hit the brakes as well. That might be a new thing for a lot of these drivers here in these next-gen race cars. But Carlos, a little bit of that track formation here. Of course, that start-finish line's right on the middle there, right at the brakes there on the front stretch of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We go right into a 90-degree turn in corner number 1. Slide into corner number 2 is a little bit easier there.
Oh, here we go. Let's go on board here.
Yeah, we're going to take it on board right here. Perfect. With last week's winner, Ty McIntosh. So you see going down into 1. We're going to hit a 90-degree corner right here. So a lot of the drivers have to brake very hard. You have to downshift as well. Make sure you hit this corner cleanly. I think we're going to have a lot of action right here. You just coast around these corners here. You're accelerating. You're getting back on the gas pedal a little bit. You're not going to upshift too much. You're going to carry it around this corner as well. You're going to go a little wide there as Ty did. Go right back down in the corner. 5 and 6 are pretty easy. You have a long stretch from 6 down into 7. So once you get through the chicane, it is a big, long stretch down into another 90-degree on corner number 7. We'll watch Ty take this corner here. And right there, Carlos, I feel like this is another corner we're going to see a lot of action as well. You have to brake very hard. You have to downshift as well. You know, 7 into 8 is a pretty easy transition. Into 9 is a little loop around as well. Going around 9 into 10, you're going to loop all the way back up onto the top embankment there of the corner. Coming off of 10 right here, you'll see him go ahead and go up onto that embankment right here. You're going to race it down around 11. You're on the speedway right now, down into 12, 13, right here.
Ooh, slide.
14. Yeah, he's sliding around, so that's a tricky little transition there. You go from a 90-degree into a little bit of an easier corner. Then you're going to slide back onto that front stretch, and then it's just a battle to that front stretch, the start-finish line right there. And that's a complete lap out of Ty McIntosh. We'll see where that puts him on the grid. That is basically third right now. But as I saw that little illustrator pin out to work already, Carlos, Min Hong has gotten that pole position right now with a 127 on the track.
Yeah, not only that, we were taking a look at now we see Cameron Perez in third place. But before that, it was McIntosh, and third place was only 2 seconds, 2.338 seconds slower than Min Hong. That's a big difference. You know, we have I want to say 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 drivers here on track right now. I am going to tell you, a lot of them have gone out on track to make a qualifying attempt, but I also feel like the majority of the drivers had mistakes. That's why we're seeing, you know, first place being 127.99, and then the last place driver that's actually set a time, which is John DeBarro, he's 6.5 seconds slower than the race leader. So we're gonna see a big gap. A lot of drivers are gonna be spreading out, well, you're gonna see the true road ringers come out and shine. And right now, it looks like Min Hong might just be a road course specialist with how fast he's going.
Yeah, and you spoke about it to start off this broadcast, Carlos. This is the type of performance that Min Hong has to have here tonight to solidify himself in those playoff chase. As mentioned, this is the last Dash for Cash race of the season. Of course, Min Hong did qualify from the result last week. But with this race here tonight, we only have 3 races left in the regular season. So although a win's not going to lock you in per se, it is going to probably bump him above that cut line. We'll see if he can maintain that pace here tonight. And with that lap time, as mentioned, Carlos, he's really putting it down. And for my road course calls here, not only on 3Wide TV or across the board, this is our first road course call. When I see a lap time like that and I see a qualifying speed like that, that is a great indication that he can almost separate from the field if he continues that pace here tonight.
Yeah, the way it's going, that's pretty much what we might be seeing out here tonight. Taking a look to see who else is on the track. We see Tom Mogul, or we have Tom Mogul out on track, and we can switch over to him right now. We're looking at Alex Buffoli. Ogo's going to be crossing the line soon. No, excuse me. He's almost done with his lap. Going in through here, the last actual sections.
We'll see right here, Carlos. And Carlos, I wanted to ask you, my man, you have a little experience driving these race cars or driving in our racing in general. How hard is it to go from a lot of speedway racing, super speedway racing that we've done here this season, and then hit this road course? Not only hit the road course with virtually no experience on road courses this season, but it being the third to last race of the regular season. How much pressure and how technical do these drivers have to be here tonight?
Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of pressure that these drivers have, because it's different racing from what you're used to. And we're talking about people who aren't really familiar with road racing. We're talking about the drivers here who are dominating here on the ovals and now have to switch it up, and go road racing, go left and right here for a couple hundred miles. And it's a culture shock. You just don't. You struggle a lot. You don't really know when to slow down, how much to slow down. You lose a lot of time in the middle of the corners because you think you need to slow down the car more. And a lot of the drivers will tend to be overly aggressive, heat up their tires, and then pretty much spend the whole race spinning out just because of how out of control their car is. And then they just get frustrated with how road racing is in general. But what they really got to do is take care of their car. Brake early, be as smooth as you can, let the car rotate naturally, and you survive a bunch of the carnage is going to happen. A lot of drivers are going to spin out, and you're going to find yourself with a solid top 5, top 10 at the end of the night. But it's still going to be extremely difficult for a lot of these drivers to do, especially those that are not familiar with road racing in general.
Now, do you bust out the Gran Turismo? Do you bust out the Forza Motorsport to get in preparation of this style of race, or it's just really, as you mentioned, you just let the car roll around the track here tonight?
It's Gran Turismo Forza. It's going to be way different from what you're going to be driving in here, but definitely I would expect to see these drivers practicing in general. So you see the 97, give it a little too much beans actually in the corner, goes into the grass. That's DJ Weeks, who I believe is his birthday.
I believe so there, Carlos. I did see a tweet there earlier before this race started that it might be his birthday out there. I'm loving the pink race car here tonight. That's probably in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month for the month of October, so it's great to see somebody representing out there. But we're watching our qualify for the Dash for Cash there. Josh Robinson's going to go ahead and pull that thing in the garage, and qualifying is officially over here, Carlos. If you want to run the folks at home through our starting grid here tonight, I'll pick up at that 10th position.
Sounds good. Let's go ahead and get that music out here playing. Get that grid going. Min Hong got the pole. We saw him earlier in the race when we saw the standings. Last right now, but currently in the playoffs. So he needs to have a great finish here tonight. Get a lot of stage points and get himself away from that bubble. John DeBarra qualified second. Nick Delicato is going to be starting tonight's race in third. Jake Bustos in fourth. Barrett Paul-Hemus qualified fifth. Johnny Eckert sixth. Cameron Perez in 7th, Ty McIntosh 8th, Dynasty is going to be starting out tonight's race in 9th, and Zach Evans, look at him, top 10 in qualifying. Great job, Zach, the Me Fine Machine. And Will, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Yeah, Me Fine Machine, Zach Evans is going to roll off 10th, as mentioned there, Carlos. And we have the birthday boy right there, DJ Weeks, going to roll off 11th. Alex Buffoli is going to start off in the 12th position, racing out of New York, right there. We drop down into the positions below Alex Buffoli. Josh Robinson, we just spoke about how he was an alternative for the Dash for Cash race here tonight. Our last chance qualifier is going to race for that cash here tonight in the 13th position. Tom Ogle is going to roll off 14th. David Westergreen in the 15th position. And William George going to round out our top 16 drivers here tonight.
You're going to say I'm a little disappointed we're not going to be doing a standing start. I remember doing a Monza race a couple of weeks ago. Actually, no, excuse me. At this point, probably like a month or two ago, in a league that I broadcast sometimes. We did it at Monza, where there's no rolling starts, so we had to line up with the ARCA car and just wait for that light to turn green. And I guess what, a couple of drivers got involved with the starting too soon penalty that would have pretty much devastated their whole race. But that's not going to be an issue here tonight. We do have a pace car, beautiful Porsche machine right there in the front, as well, the drivers are already starting to take off.
Yeah, we see them rolling off that start-finish line right there, Carlos, but that makes it official. We're going to have 3 drivers that are inside of that point standings that won't be racing here tonight. Of course, they'll get provisionals. A couple of the drivers that it won't affect too much here. Riley Marabello, of course, in the 4th spot in the point standings right now. Seth Rawls in the 6th spot in those point standings. But really, what I'm taking a look at there, Carlos, at Andrew Hess down in the 10th spot. The drivers he has below him right now, Kean Riley in 11th, Ty McIntosh, last week's winner, in 12th. David Westergreen, we spoke about him. Zach Roethlisberger hasn't really come back here tonight. He's not racing here tonight either. Didn't see his name on the grid. One name to watch out for is Min Hung down in the 15th spot. About 3 spots away from that cut line. The top 12 qualify for the playoffs here. So if Min Hung can come home with a victory here tonight, he can solidify his spot in the playoffs. I do believe, I'm not a mathematician, that's why I speak behind a microphone, but if he can get a win here tonight, Carlos, that should bump him above that cut line.
I'm not too good at math either. Just remember, just because you get a win doesn't mean that you're going to be outscoring everybody else out here on the track. We do have 2 stages, and well, we already have on the screen here, stage 1 ends at lap 12. Stage 2 will be ending at the end of lap 26, but wait, there's more. We have 1 scheduled caution. The scheduled caution, excuse me for, I actually don't have the exact reason as to why at the moment. If I do get that, I'll let you guys know. But there is a caution that's going to be thrown on lap 17, just after, slightly just after stage 1 ends, in the middle of stage 2. Now, the drivers do have around 24 laps of fuel, so the caution coming out will kind of, according to Johnny Eckert, say we'll kind of split the race into 2 with state, with all the stage points being available. So I expect these guys to kind of go down maybe pit road right before the caution comes out, like we see in real life. I don't know if there are any rules to the drivers going down pit road, like on lap 16, right before the caution comes out, since the drivers do know when the caution's coming out. So I expect to see drivers going down pit road maybe 3 laps before the scheduled caution, and if not, it'll probably be the lap before the scheduled caution comes out. So I expect there to be strategy there, and I expect a couple drivers to maybe make some mistakes here or there.
Yeah, I think so too, Carlos. You know, these drivers are going to have 3 sets of tires here tonight. 4 sets, excuse me. We're going to start with 1 set on those machines here, and then 3 sets in the garage. But one thing that I love about this league, Carlos, not only with the cautions at the stage breaks, but also there is no fast repair. So if you get in trouble in one of these 90-degree corners, you have to really try to make up for that mistake, avoid other cars. But here we go, the green flag is in the air. We're starting off the road course race in our last Dash for Cash race in the Dynasty Stock Car Racing League.
We got a couple drivers spinning, wrecking. Nick and Delicato, Barrett Paulhemus involved. A lot of damage to a couple drivers already early in. I think there was a tire spin, either that or a driver was unaware as to when when the green flag came out. But saw Barrett Paulhemus, Nick and Delicato. Let's see if we can get a replay on that very quickly.
And there's no caution on the track here, but we'll take a look at this replay here. And excuse me, when we hit those stage breaks, there is no caution flags that are flown. There should be a caution flag flown for that mess on the front stretch. We hadn't even hit that first 90 degree yet, Carlos. We have damaged race cars on the track.
Yeah, I think Paulhemus got into the back of Delicato, getting him loose. Not quite sure why, what happened, but I'm also getting reports that Johnny Eckert may have just been involved in an incident right now.
Yeah, we'll take a look at some of this action already ensuing here. We're not even through lap 1 yet, Carlos. We have drivers already getting tamed by the road course. Take a look at
Johnny Eckert. Oh, Johnny. So he's okay, but he's going to lose a lot of pride and a lot of positions here. Not too many drivers out on track here tonight. So, the chances of you really losing a lot of spots is minimal, as David Westergreen has wrecked and taken a tow. As we're going to go cut to replay once again to figure out just what happened. It looks like he went wide in one of the corners. I don't know, Will, if you know which one it is, and decided that, I've had enough. This is not it for me. Oh, never mind. He just gave it too much. He gave it too much beans. As half the car was on track, half the car was on the grass, and that was just a recipe for being turned around both in here and in Gran Turismo. So, not good for a lot of these drivers early on. We already had Westergreen take a tow. William George actually did not start tonight's race, so he's being listed as last, but did not actually attempt to start the race. Nick Delicado, currently 14th of all the drivers, still out on track at the moment, even though he qualified all the way up in 3rd.
Yeah, Nick Delicado is basically on the lead end of this pack right now. Of course, David Westergreen is down pit road. William George didn't start the race here tonight, so that means Nick Delicado is essentially the last car on the racetrack right now. Another position that we're used to seeing him there in that Ford machine. But looking at the top of the racetrack right now, Min Heng is still leading the way right now. Min Heng is leading the way there, there. John DeBarro is right behind him, sticking to that back bumper. We have Bustos right behind them. Dallas Mahan in 4th, and Ty McIntosh is our top dash for cash driver right up there in the 5th position. So right now on lap number 2, after that frantic start where we had incident on the front stretch, we had a couple other cars kind of crash out as well. We're now settled in here at the road course. We're going to take a look at Zach Evans' in-car camera there. Appreciate Zach for letting us get that point of view of him racing here tonight in the Dynasty Stock Car Racing League. And I feel like here, Carlos, is that this might be Zach's course. We might see a very good finish out of Zach here tonight. He qualified really well there, top 10 qualifying position. He's already up 2 spots from the start of this race.
Yeah, Zach is a very patient driver. A lot of the times he does end up in incidents, but I would say the majority of them are just incidents that he just gets caught up in. Rarely do I see Zach Evans actually make a mistake that causes a caution, let alone a wreck or two. So Zach Evans trying to be patient. He's always Mr. Consistent. Very early on, moved up 2 spots, but just wisely let the 97 Mr. Birthday Boy Weeks right on by, as Zach Evans is still kind of just trying to figure out this racetrack here already on lap number 3.
Yeah, lap 3 right now on the racetrack. We're seeing a lot of kind of give and take right now. A lot of the drivers are just trying to hit their lines, to get a feel of the racetrack here. It's similar to how you would play an arcade game, a console racing game where you have to hit a road course. And then we're going to take a look at last week's winner, Ty McIntosh. As I mentioned, he is our top dash for cash driver right now there in the 5th position. He won at Pocono last week. He is right, I believe, right on the bottom of the point standings there, right on the cut line.
So contact with somebody.
Oh, no, a mistake out of Ty there. You can still
that was not
there.
A mistake out of Ty. Somebody hit him. I don't know who it was. May have been Buffoli. We may have to go back in time, as we also saw there Ty McIntosh not happy with what happened, showing visible frustration there, talking on the radio, I believe. But let's see. I think I have the replay as to what happened.
Take a look here to see what happened to Ty McIntosh there on the corner. I thought he had just overdriven that corner there, Carlos, but we'll see. Right here, going down in the corner. And you see, yeah, he did get kind of shoved out of the way there a little bit there.
The one of Cameron Perez.
So one of Kevin Perez.
Yeah. Buffoli, I mentioned Buffoli because his name did pop up as being off track, and I thought that had something to do with McIntosh. No, Buffoli just drove it in a little hot there after the incident. It had nothing to do with it, so I apologize to Alex on that.
Now, Carlos, I might be mistaken, but is this Perez's first race? That name looks unfamiliar to me.
The name looks familiar.
I'm
gonna have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, because I was looking at the grid and everybody else's name, and Bustos looks new to me as well. If we haven't seen him racing in the field yet either this season, those two names kind of stick out to me.
I think he ran at Martinsville, which would probably explain why you didn't see him.
The one race I missed this. You see Perez get loose there and then won the 97. DJ. So you see that 90 degree.
A lot of drivers going wide. 70.
Oh, we have
9
contact on the racetrack. And Carlos, I do believe that is right there, coming off 11 into 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I have a theory for that if you would like to hear it.
Yeah.
Well, this is the brand new road version of Indy. It just released a couple weeks ago, and oh man,
oof!
I didn't know it was that bad. As half the drivers go on wide this time by, but before that, the road version of Indy was, I believe, it was that the Indy that the F1 ran back in 2005 when they had that huge tire scandal. Or tire controversy, I should say. So that's the one where the cars go on, I believe, through turns 3 and 4 at speed like an oval, or turns 1 and 2, but they're going backwards, so it's 3 and 4. But and in here you don't do that. You barely get on the back, and then you go back into the infield before you do get back into the front stretch.
Yeah, and you got to think too, with these next-gen race cars, they're very new to everybody. We see everybody racing the super speedway or speedway races. Everybody's still trying to get to know the aero packages on these cars, how to maneuver them, how to get around people, even though they've been out for a while now, almost a full year there, Carlos. But here, hitting the road course, now you have to figure out how to take these cars at a 90-degree angle. And I feel like that's where a lot of these drivers are having difficulties at how to slow these cars down, how to downshift, and also how to turn that wheel at 90 degrees and then accelerate back through the corner. You've already seen it a few times here tonight. I think these 90-degree corners, you're going to see one at corner number 12. As Carlos just mentioned, you're going to come off that embankment down into 12. That's a 90-degree. Then 1 and 2 is our other 90-degree corner as well. And 7 and 8 is another 90-degree here on the race course here tonight. So keep an eye out for that. We've already seen a few drivers struggle right here. See, the 90 degrees is just so hard. Then you also have to account, Carlos, the weight of these race cars. You know, you have to try to maneuver these heavy race cars through a 90-degree corner. So a lot of things come into play when you try to maneuver this race course here tonight.
Yeah, it's a bunch of different things that you gotta focus on at a tight track like this. It's a very fun, challenging track. IndyCar goes to this track 2 times a year now, well, it's just fun to see these guys trying to wrestling these vehicles. It would really suck if iRacing added some sort of power steering failure, like the old Infogrames games had back in the day, or I guess Monster Games. I think Infogrames was the publishers, but yeah, that would have been I'm sure a lot of these drivers would be experiencing sore arms the whole day if they had to run like 52 laps without power steering.
I feel like they're going to have some sore arms at the end of this. Through all the chaos and commotion at the start of this race, there has been a constant, though, Carlos, at the top of the grid. We still have Min Hong and John DeBarro racing it out 1-2. Of course, they've separated from the rest of the field, the top 2 cars on the grid right now. But you see John trying to poke that nose right to the inside and outside of Ming through these corners. Just can't find the right corner to get around it. But we have a battle for the lead that's been brewing here for the first 7 laps or so.
Yeah, it's been battling the whole time. We kind of expected Min Hong to kind of pull away based on how quick he was in qualifying, but you know, as qualifying kind of went on, the gap became smaller and smaller. So 29 sends it into the back of the one of Cameron Perez there, just a little bit middle of the corner. But yeah, Min Hong's pretty much, he's hung on to the lead, hasn't been fully challenged. I don't know if John DeBarro just doesn't have that last little bit of oomph to get right past Min Hong, or if he's just settling in, taking it easy, staying behind him. You know, I would honestly put my money saying that DeBarro is just consistently okay right now being in second, not needing to push it unless something weird happens. But what a weird crossover. That's another thing you see. You see a lot at ovals, the different angles that these drivers take into the corners, but you don't really see this type of thing too much, except for maybe at short tracks where just the middle part of the corner is the same place everybody is, no matter where they take their angle, high, low, middle, whatever. But everywhere else is separate. As you see, I think it's Cameron Perez going off track once again. And so we see drivers that get pretty much close to making contact, and one of them has to back out in order to avoid that. And we almost saw that happening there between Min Hong and the 3 and the 61 of John Barrow.
Yeah, taking a look at last week's race there, Carlos, I'm not seeing Min Hong's name on the race results, so I don't think he took the grid last week. And John DeBarro finished essentially dead last at Pocono. So these two drivers are really coming out of the woodwork, quote unquote, here tonight, putting on a show at the road course.
I totally forgot. I don't know if it's changed, but Min Hong initially started this season with the intention to run full time. However, there were a couple challenges in well, actually, I don't know the exact reason, but there was a change in plans, and he went from competing full time to competing part time. And I think this is one of the races he is going to be running at, which is why we saw his name drop. As Ming Hong just drove it in wide in the same corner we've seen a lot of people miss, and so Ming Hong has now dropped into second, comfortably in second, I should add, as John DeBarro now has a comfortable lead of already over 3 seconds. But yeah, Ming Hong dropping in spots because he's no longer running full time. Now I don't know if Ming Hong has a really great finish here, if he's going to continue and attempt to make the rest of the races from the playoffs. But as far as I can tell right now, Ming Hong is running a part-time schedule, and this is just one of the races he did have penciled in.
Yeah, Carlos, maybe we can rev up a 3Y TV replay there to see how Ming took that corner and see if he may have just maybe an onboard ride with him to see if maybe it was a braking issue or he just overdrove down into the corner here. We're going to take an onboard ride with Ming Hong.
He just overdrove it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, Carlos. He just overdrove it. Essentially, it just looked like he forgot that he had to turn there. It just looked like he just kept going straight and said, uh-oh, there was a corner there that I have to take. That's unfortunate for Min Hong there. But, of course, we got just a few laps to go here in stage number 1. As Carlos mentioned, we're going to have a staged caution on lap 17. So the caution flag will fly. They'll give the grid a chance to come back together here on lap
Except it's not a stage caution.
Or lap 17. Well, it's a planned caution, if you will.
Yeah, it's a competition caution.
A phantom caution, as NASCAR likes to say.
But yeah, interesting enough, Johnny Ecker went down Pier Road. This is very early. I don't know if he plans on just staying out the rest of the way, even during the caution. Not sure if I fully agree with this strategy, but hey, Johnny Ecker's a championship contending driver, and I haven't won a championship in decades, so I'm not going to question him on this. Yeah, so right now, John DeBarro, Ming Hong, I gotta say, Ming Hong, he did lose the lead and over 3 seconds, but I think he just ran a really good lap. He's already cut that down to under 3 seconds to DeBarro, so maybe Ming Hong was also kind of taking it easy in the corners and just made a little mistake there towards the end of the lap. But let's see what happens if I pull up the lap history. Of course, it's gonna be a little different, but yeah, that last lap, the whole time he's trading with DeBarro. One lap he's 1/10 of a second faster, and the next lap he's a 1/10 or 2 slower. So they're trading, with the exception of what happened the previous lap in lap 8, where he lost 3.5 seconds. So, and he's already kind of made that up on lap number 9 by being about a 1/10 faster. So we're gonna see what happens this time by, as Cameron Perez has gone down Pier Road right now.
Yeah, we see Cameron Perez head down pit road. But, Carlos, I wanted to pop a question to you here, man. On lap number 10, we see the field right now is kind of separated, I would say, to the least here. Of course, we're going to have that caution on lap 17. But my question to you, this being the last Dash for Cash race, we have, of course, 4 qualifiers: Nick Delicato, Ty McIntosh, Josh Robinson, and Johnny Eckert there in basically the last car on the lead pack here in the 13th position. If you feel like this race isn't going to be your race to win, let's say for one of the Dash for Cash drivers, are you grid watching at a certain point? Are you starting to look at the other drivers that are in that Dash for Cash and starting to look at where they're at in association with the grid and starting to say in your mind, okay, if I can just get above them, okay, I'm not going to win the race here tonight, but as long as I can finish above those guys and get that cash here, is that something that might creep into one of these drivers' minds here tonight?
I'm sure, maybe. I doubt that I doubt that is what's going on in Nick Delicato's mind. He's already won so many he's won every single Dash for Cash race, but maybe McIntosh, maybe Robinson, since this is his first time doing it. I don't think it's really on Eckert's mind. But in general, I just don't think it's really going to be something that's too big of a deal. I think they're more trying to figure out what's going on with themselves first. Have you taken a look at how quick Ming Hong is catching up to Nabarro now? He's already 2.3 seconds, 2.5 seconds behind. But oh, hey, I also want to talk about something. Hey, going into this race, we finally got a repeat pole sitter. Ming Hong got his second pole of the season. It's the first time. Congratulations, Ming Hong. Here's a kazoo. It's a very quiet one. I forgot to raise the volume. So we're 2 laps to go. Nabarro needs to cross the line here next time by. It'll be 1 lap to go, and then stage 1 will end. Remember, no stage cautions. However, there will be a competition phantom caution at the end of lap 17. So that's the point where I expect some of these drivers to kind of just go down pit road. Wouldn't surprise me if we see everybody go down pit road right before the caution comes out, because stage 1 already ended. Well, stage 1 at that point would have already ended. We are on the last lap right now. We're just in early stages of stage 2. You're gonna lose time if you stay out and then get the caution and then go down pit road. That's how you're gonna lose a bunch of time. But actually, now that I thought about it, what's 52 minus 17?
I was trying to do that math myself there, Carlos. You do 12 minus 7, which is 4, and then you do and then you do what? 4 minus 2, so that's 20. So that's 33. If I'm not mistaken, the 32, 31.
You're just throwing numbers out there. But that means that
my 4 years of college are paying off there, Carlos. I tell you what.
Okay, so if we're throwing this equation out here, all right, we already have a couple drivers going down pit road now, but let's say the most they can go is 24 laps. That's the most they can go. As Nabarro is going to be crossing the line here to win stage number 1. And we'll go back to the math here just a little bit. So congratulations to Nabarro winning the first stage here. As now we're going to go on to stage number 2, and stage number 2 ends on lap excuse me, I had it right here, lap 26. Which go on.
No, I was going to say, as we're getting into a beautiful mind mathematician there, Carlos, my question to you is, of course, we're going to have that caution on lap 17, right? We spoke about how lap 24 is basically going to be the longest window you could run. Do you push it past that caution to lap 24 to kind of put yourself out of position to end this race here on that big run? Because you're going to run to about lap 48 of 52, so you're going to just be very, very close to the end of the race. But, you don't want to push it too far and run out of fuel. I don't think it's really going to be a tire battle here today. I think it's going to be more of a fuel window that you're going to have to watch out for. So it's going to be a strategy to see what these pit windows are like. Do you stretch it past 24? Do you stretch it past to lap 26 or 27 to kind of put yourself closer to that last little bit of the race there at lap 52? It's going to be something to watch out for here at the end of the race.
I'm trying to do some quick maths here to try to just make sure everything is correct. So 24, the most you can make it, times 2 is 48, which is still less than 52. So you're gonna have to pit a third time. So if you separate it on 3, what's 53 or what's 52 divided by 3? I was about to do the Spanish. That's whatever. I was about to do the Spanish style of division, so I don't need to do that here. If you're gonna divide 52 by 3, that's 17.333, which is when the caution comes out. So actually,
math here tonight.
Yeah. So that's excuse me, it's 17.3 33. It's indefinite threes, and Zach Evans is having a time of his life right now, getting off track. At this point, if you're gonna have to pit every single time, and the caution comes out on lap 17, and the window, see this is the window here, is 24. Then you pit every 17 laps. So when the caution comes out, that's when you pit.
Now, if you pushed it to lap 28, If
Okay.
you pushed it that far, another 4 laps, you're going to be very, very close to the end of the race.
So lap 28, if you can push it at lap 28, because then 28 times 2. I was waiting for you to answer. It's 56, which is too much. Oh, that's 56.
Right, exactly.
So then you don't need to push it.
mark.
You don't need to push it to 28. You just need to push it to 26. If you can push it to 26, that's
You'll be all right.
the window you want. 26 is when you want to do it because 26 times 2 is 52. 28 times 2 is 56, and that's 4 laps too much.
I think a lot of the drivers are probably listening to this broadcast right now and thinking that we're on to something up here in the booth, Carlos, because I think we just may have given them that Willy Wonka golden ticket to the end of this race here tonight.
I don't know where I was going to draw there. All right, well, let's get back to the track. I'm sure we've had a lot of developments going on. We're going to have a caution here. I also realized I put stage 26 on lap 12 because my dumb butt was trying to figure out math here. So let me fix that. Stage 2 is lap 26. So that's in about 12 laps. But in about 2 laps, we're going to be having a caution, a scheduled competition phantom caution. As in the meantime, John DeBarro still leading. Ming Hong, who actually was chasing him down, is actually losing some time now. Is actually 3.5 seconds back. Nick In-Dee-Car did move up 1 spot. He's now up into 4th, and actually that's where he qualified. Remember, Nick In-Dee-Car got tapped in the back, I believe, by Paul Hemus to start the race. So he dropped a ton of spots, went all the way to the back, and now has gone all the way back up to the front. So, excuse me, this caution is also going to be doing great things for In-Dee-Car because he's only 20 seconds back. But he's still running competitive lap times. As a matter of fact, this last lap, he ran almost 0.3 of a second faster than John DeBarro, the race leader.
Yeah, we see him up already into a podium position right now. The fastest dash for Cash driver currently on the track as well. There's about 4 spots between him and Ty McIntosh. We saw Ty really fighting it in one of those 90-degree corners as well. So Nick's really keeping that Ford Mustang clean here tonight. Other than that first lap incident that we saw a lot of cars tagged up in here at the Indy road course. But we see how difficult that 90-degree is right there, Carlos. You come off that long stretch, you really have to kind of simmer the car down, get that car to turn for you there, but you can't hit it too wide. We've seen drivers, just fly right through the corner. Min Hong had a problem with that corner to where it essentially looked like when we took an onboard ride.
I think
the corner was there.
I think you would be better naming who didn't have trouble with that corner.
Right. I think Nick In-Dee-Car's won. John DeBarro's won so far here in this race. These are the drivers that really haven't had any issues. Now we see that 10 machine of Ty McIntosh, last week's winner at Pocono, heading down pit road here on lap 16.
DeBarro's going down pit road, so it looks like people are not listening to me. Either that or they can go more than 24 laps in a run. But we already got drivers going down pit road. DeBarro's going, because caution's going to be coming out. Ming Hong is not going to go down pit road. He's staying out. And as soon as he crosses the line, we may have a caution as soon as he crosses. Yeah. As soon as he crosses the line, caution's out. So DeBarro, Ty McIntosh all went down pit road. Ty McIntosh will actually lose a lap here. He's having a lot of issues out here.
It's almost, you almost wonder if these drivers knew that this scheduled caution was going to come, because why would you head down pit road if you knew a caution flag was going to fly on lap 17?
Oh yeah. This was these drivers knew about it. They have every single week amazing admin team always releases a bunch of press information as well as race notes, race procedures. Everything that all these drivers need is listed, and it was listed there was going to be a scheduled caution on lap 17. So these drivers know that. Not only that, but these amazing admins and everybody involved in the team also released a drivers meeting video on YouTube for the drivers to watch so that they can be prepared tonight, so they don't spend 10-20 minutes doing a last minute like drivers meeting and track and during practice, and they can just spend those times actually practicing in the track. So fantastic job to everybody involved in the admin team in the league as well for doing all that. But yeah, these drivers did know about the lap 17 competition caution.
Gotcha. And as we have our first, I think, official caution here of the night, That's going to be our Phantom Caution. I believe, Carlos, if you would like, you've been his biggest cheerleader here so far this season. He's running one heck of a race here tonight. Started on the pole. I believe we have this opportunity to maybe catch up with Min Hong and see what his thoughts are about this race here tonight.
Go ahead and bring him up. See if we can have a nice quick word with him.
All right, we got him on the radio there. Carlos, take it away.
Ming Hong, you have a copy?
Yes, sir, I do.
How are you doing? We saw you out here having the time of your life, grabbing the pole. By the way, congratulations on getting your second pole of the season and being the first driver to actually repeat in the league here and in terms of getting pole. So congratulations on that. Unfortunately, we saw you having an issue late in the track a couple laps ago before the stage ended, and you lost about 3.5 seconds to DeBarro, who went on to actually get the stage win. But other than that little mishap that we had, how's the car handling out here tonight at the Indianapolis racetrack?
So I think the track, the car feels pretty good. Tires, like, it's very little, like it's there, but it takes a couple laps to actually, wear down. But I was surprised because the track was actually getting faster the longer we ran. I figured the tires were gonna wear out, so I just pushed farther and farther, but apparently that one corner was too much and locked up and gave up the lead. But it's okay, because worst scenario, if let's say we don't get the lead, we finish second because everyone else is kind of off the pace. So
yeah, right now it actually looks like it's just 3 drivers who can pretty much compete together. It's you, DeBarro, and In-Dee-Car, who got tapped from behind as soon as the race began, so that's why he was all the way back there. So it looks like it's going to be a 3-horse race between those 3 guys, and it'll be pretty fun with this last remaining 20 odd laps, or excuse me, 40 odd laps that we have around. But right now, what's your strategy here for tonight? Do you plan on pitting? I'm assuming you're at the pit now, but when's the next time you plan on pitting?
Haven't figured that out yet, but in terms of the entire race, I'm just planning to have a solid day because we've been having, inconsistency with internet problems and just screwing up on the other races. So just need one race to have a solid race, build up momentum, and hopefully that's just the goal for today: get a top 3 and get a solid finish.
All right, one last thing before you dive down pit road. Are you still planning on staying on part-time, or are you going to be committing to full-time if you win tonight?
I think the plan is to stay part-time. I'm probably not going to show up next week at a provisional, but Charlotte, I'll show up, and if I make the chase, then we're literally just going to run like 2 races probably-ish. So just part-time.
All right, well, we wish you good luck.
So, thank you.
It just occurred to me. Sorry about that. It just occurred to me. I never actually updated. I never updated DeBarro's name to show that he won the stage. So why don't you go ahead and take over for a little bit while I take care of that?
Yeah, and that was Ben Hong, our pole sitter and our stage. Well, didn't win the stage. Finished in second there by just a little while, but still a good run for him so far here. To qualify for those point standings with just a couple of disappointing finishes. Not taking the start last week. It sounds like he's just going to run a part-time schedule here. So what a way to kind of close out his season here if he just has a few more races to go in his race season in the DSCR to win one of the toughest courses on this season. This is the one and only road course that we're going to go to here this season. So what a way to cap off a season for Min Hong there tonight. What we see here tonight, he's going to roll off, looks like about 3rd position there. John DeBarro is going to be 2nd. Johnny Eckert's now going to lead the field after an early incident there out of that 90 machine's now going to lead the race here when we go back under green. Nick In-Dee-Car is going to be in the 4th position. Bostos is going to be 5th. Dallas Myhan in 6th. Tom Ogle in 7th. Evans in 8th. Josh Robinson, a Dash for Cash driver here. Our first alternate is going to roll off 9th. The birthday man right there, DJ Weeks, is going to roll off 10th. Lafoli in 11th. Perez in 12th. Ty McIntosh is still down pit road in the 13th position. And then the rest of the field, Barrett Paul Hemus and David Westergreen have officially retired here at the road course.
It's unfortunate for sure for all these drivers. But we have the first stage done. The competition caution has gone on through. We're about to end probably within the next lap. I'm assuming we should be getting one to go here next time by. And after that, we're gonna have a 32 lap run to finish this. And, you know, these drivers, they're going to have to pit one more time, because whether or not they can go a little past 24 laps or not, I highly doubt they're going to make it all the way to like 32 laps on one tank of fuel. So they're going to have to go down pit road. The question is, do you pit early? Do you pit late? Do you split it down the middle? That's going to be a big deal. But we're going to go ahead and take a little break, and we'll be right back for this first restart of the night. And hopefully it goes without any issues, especially if your name is Nick and Delicado.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back here once again live from the Indy Road Course here on 3Y TV. We're just about to go green after that scheduled caution on lap 17. Johnny Eckert in that 90 machine is going to take us to that start-finish line here for the drop of the green flag. Has John DeBarro, who has ran top 2 here throughout the entire proceedings, is going to start to his inside here on the track, or outside, excuse me, here. I'm used to oval racing, Carlos, but here at the road course, he's going to be to his outside, inside. It just matters which corner you take on here. Min Hong, who's been running up there as well, is going to roll off third. Nick and Delicato in fourth. And Bustos is going to be our top 5 here to take this green flag.
Yep, and when we go live, we're going to have 5 laps. No, 6 laps. I was right the first time. 6 laps remaining before stage number 2 ends. So it's going to be a small 6-lap stint. And then after that, we're just going to go the rest of the way, till the race is over, before anybody else has a chance to actually lock up any more points. And remember, this is the only scheduled caution of the race, as the pace car is off. So no caution at the end of stage number 2.
Yeah, and looks like these drivers are ready to get going. You saw a lot of the drivers really get on the gas pedal there. You almost thought the green flag dropped there, but it's going to drop at that start-finish line here. We're going to come around this last corner. We're going to hit this beautiful front stretch here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We're going to go green flag racing here once again in the last Dash for Cash race of the Dynasty Stock Car Racing League, as Johnny Eckert takes that green flag heading down into corner number 1.
And no issues for any drivers as soon as the green flag came out. No issues at all. This hopefully continues the fact that we're not going to have issues going down here into turn number 1. We've seen a lot of issues in the real life race, as Johnny Eckert is holding on to the lead. Remember, both him and Oh Ming Han is going to go around.
No! Man, that is disastrous there. I thought it was going to happen there initially on corner number 1. You saw the drivers kind of respecting each other there a little bit. But it looks like Min Hong just tried to get on the gas pedal just a little bit too soon. Nick and Delicato was behind him in that Ford machine. If I know Nick and Delicato, I don't think there was any contact made. I think Ming just tried to get on the gas a little bit
I
quicker
wonder if there was
there.
contact with
Let's take
DeBarro,
a look
actually.
at that, Carlos.
Because I initially thought that there was contact from behind, but looking at that previous replay, no. Unless there was weird net code, the 4 maybe just gave it too much beans. Excuse me, the 3 maybe just gave it too much beans in the middle of the corner and ended up turning himself around, unfortunately. So,
Yeah,
tough break for Ming Hong.
what
This
you
is
wanna
not
do
what
there.
he wanted to
Yeah.
do when we talked about him.
No, and he's been running a clean race here the entire night. So on lap 21, to have a mistake like that just kind of blows the wind out of your sails there, kind of sets you back just a little bit. See if Min
Oh,
Hong can
Tamago going around
recover
in the
here.
pumpkin spice white claw machine.
Ooh, not going to enjoy those pumpkin spice white claws after a spin like that on the racetrack. We'll have to take a look at, I believe that's Tom Opel there with that spin.
Yeah, that's what we were looking at. Well, you know, I haven't had a white claw or a pumpkin spice white claw, but my sister did buy pumpkin pie flavored butter, and I gotta
Ooh,
say,
actually, that sounds
I gotta
pretty
say,
good.
it's pretty good. It smacks, but it's not something that I'm always gonna want to eat.
It's bussin', as the kids say. Right?
Dude, no cap.
Right now, back to the action on the track. It looks like Nick and Delicato is trying to overtake John DeBarro up there. I think, as you mentioned, Carlos, before that that caution flag came out, that's the best thing that Nick could have hoped for, because now it gives him an opportunity to eat up this grid like Pac-Man does here, eat up those little yellow dots on the screen. He's trying to do just that here on this restart. He's got his eyes set on John DeBarro there in that second spot, trying to overtake to get up to Johnny Eckert up here at the top of the grid so far here on lap 22.
Little wide, high, wide, and handsome as DeBarro has to do some evasive maneuvers as
John
well.
DeBarro goes a little wide.
Yeah. Oh, I saw that smoke going into the corner, and I knew something was going to happen. Johnny Eckert, I'll say it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be based on the smoke I saw, but he still loses 2 spots and a bunch of time. As now John DeBarro has retaken the lead, Nick and Delicato right behind him, and well, it was going to be a battle between 3 drivers, DeBarro, Delicato, and Hong, and unfortunately, an issue with Hong on this restart has kind of made it back into being a 2-car battle for the win, and unfortunately for Hong, that you know he doesn't have that, and Delicato does, is that there is no caution coming up. There's no more scheduled caution, so there's no safety net for Hong to get himself back up there at the end. And at this point, he just has to go in, ride it out, and maybe try to get himself back up into the top 3 spots.
No, and this is exactly what Nick and Delicato wanted. He wanted just a solo opportunity at the race lead. He's been on the back of the back bumper of John DeBarro since the drop of the green flag here, and he's racing with pace to try to overtake John. But John there at the top of the position. Of course, we saw that early mistake out of Min Hong that opened the door for John to take the lead there. John has raced this course very clean here tonight on lap 23. Don't want to put the commentator's curse on him just yet here tonight. But it looks like he's got these corners down pat. So does Nick and Delicato. Looks like a bad corner from John right there. Might open the door for Delicato. Looks like Delicato struggles a little bit as well. That is a tough transition to go from a 90-degree into a chicane almost right there. And then you go right back onto the race surface there. So that is a tough transition. It's going to be a transition to keep an eye out for at the end of this race, because I believe, Carlos, that's where that simplest mistake could happen right there. That could change the dynamic of this race here in just a split second.
Yeah, it's interesting to see because we know that Delicato was running faster lap times than DeBarro and Hong many points during that time. My question is, and maybe not really more of a question, more of what I'm seeing is I'm seeing Delicato maybe taking it easy as well, like we saw DeBarro do when he was behind Ming Hong for the majority of that first stage. But the question is, how easy do you want to take it? Stage 2 is going to be ending here in about 2.5 laps. So you gotta be there at the end to make sure you get those points. Just how much are you willing to ride it out in second if you were in Delicato at this point?
Well, the season that Nick Delacato's had, of course, he's on top of the table right now, so he has no worries in that aspect. He's essentially locked that Ford machine into the playoffs. I know race wins don't count to lock yourself in, but with the points lead that he has, he is locked in. I believe that he could really race it clean here. We've seen it out of Nick, though, Carlos. It's almost a pattern that we see out of that Ford machine. He waits his time. He's a very calm racer on the racetrack, whether it's a super speedway, whether it's a regular speedway, a short track. You've seen it week in and week out of that Ford. He just kind of takes his time, waits his time. He doesn't really press the issue too much. And then when it's time to go, he essentially flips that switch and overtakes the lead and then checks out to whoever's in second place. We've seen it week in and week out. He almost tried it last week to run down Ty McIntosh. Just ran out of laps there, but we saw that run that he had there, almost coming up about 8 or 9 spots on the grid in 20 laps to try to overtake that 10 machine for the race win. So we're probably going to see that same strategy out of that 4 machine here tonight. He's probably not going to press it too much until when he had to. Of course, John DeBarro, I don't believe, is inside of the cut line for the playoffs. So really, John has a lot of pressure on himself with the race victory here tonight.
Yeah, sorry, Acker got a little loosey-goosey there on the old abandoned airline, or runway, I should say. But he got to gather back up as he's currently trying to get in front of Bustos, who I think passed him recently. So, or I guess I should say he's trying to hang on to the back of 74 Bustos. But, unfortunately, McIntosh, you mentioned earlier, is in pit road. Looks like he's been there for a long time now at this point. It looks like he's no longer being timed, so I think it's safe to say that Ty McIntosh has packed it up and gone home early in here and is going to get ready to challenge it out at Dover, Delaware next week. For the second to last race in the regular season, and then I believe, after that, the final race of the regular season is at Charlotte.
Yeah, a racetrack that I'm very familiar with growing up just outside of Charlotte Motor Speedway, about 5 minutes away from the racetrack. So I'm very familiar with that
went
track.
Around.
And you see Buffoli around as well. And it looks like Ty McIntosh was in the infield care center, has now been released there under his own reconnaissance. So it's a shame to see that 10 machine really have a tough night here tonight. We saw the elation, we saw the happiness out of that 10 machine last week when he was able to come home with a race victory. Not going to happen here tonight, but we'll see what he has in store for the folks at home when he hits Dover, Delaware next week. But here at the Indy Road Course, Nick Delacato is trying to overtake John DeBarro, who's really ran an excellent race here tonight. But we see that battle for the lead ensuing there in the left-hand corner of your screen. If you're watching live with us here on 3 Wide TV, it looks like Nick Delacato has thought about it. He said, okay, it's go time now. He wants to overtake John DeBarro for that top spot on the grid.
Yeah, he's really going for it right now. And I'm trying to see, we may actually get a quick word with Ty McIntosh, but we're going to see if he is able to hop on. Apologize to Ty, I didn't see that he was in the infield care center. That's on me. But yeah, this is it. This is the last lap, as soon as the line crosses, that's it for stage 2. And DeBarro looks like he's going to be sweeping both stages here tonight. And Delacato is going to be getting 9 points here in stage number 2.
Yeah, not that Nick Delacato needs any more points on the season. That's really going to be more beneficial for John DeBarro there in that top spot. We're going down into that first 90-degree corner here, right into corner number 1, 2, and 3 right there. It looks like Nick almost has the advantage there, but then John's able to pull off there, gets a little bit more on that gas pedal. But Nick is just locked into the pace of John DeBarro. This is almost like a rallycross race we're watching take place right here, where these cars take these corners so clean. They're locked in, locked step with one another. Here goes Nick Delacato there to the inside right there on the long stretch. If he makes a move here going down into the 90-degree, you see right here, John's going to hold pace. There goes Nick to the inside. John has a wide corner there. Nick's going to try to go with him step for step around the chicane. This is quite a battle for the lead, and Nick Delacato gets a little loose there. He's going to lose his momentum, but there he goes once again to the inside. We have quite the battle on our hands, Carlos, for the race lead right now.
Nick Delacato is doing everything he can to try to get the good angles on the exit of the corners. He's taking the corners wide in and then very tight off, and he's getting to the inside of DeBarro, but unfortunately, just the way that road course racing is set up, you get to the inside of a driver, then in a couple seconds, you're then on the outside. So if you can hold on and just be able to get in the right spot, the right time, and get the perfect drive off that you need to do, you're gonna get the lead. But if you can't do that, as In-Dee-Car's looking on the inside here in turn number 1, and see who's gonna win the braking zone battle. It looks like it's gonna be very even, and the 4 is gonna go to the inside. See if he's gonna do a good job. Doesn't shove the bar wide, but we have a brand new race leader as In-Dee-Car is looking to get that 7th win of the season. Or sixth
out of
win.
the bar right there, Carlos. He made sure he didn't make contact with that 4. Could have if he wanted to. Could have tapped that back fender just a little bit. He was close enough to do so. But a lot of good sign of respect out of John DeBarro there to kind of keep pace, but then also not wreck the guy in front of you. But now that battle is ensuing here. But we see that 4 now. He does it every week here, Carlos. He overtakes for that lead. And then once he gets out in that clean air, he's like Sonic the Hedgehog. He is gone here once he gets in that lead spot.
You know, we've seen him do it, and we'll continue to see him. We are past the halfway mark. We passed the halfway mark as soon as stage 2 ended. So right now, you know, usually we see Nick In-Dee-Car getting the lead very late in the run, maybe within like the last 10% of the race. This time by though, In-Dee-Car doesn't want to waste any time, wants to get to the lead and hold on to it. Hell, I think he could have had the lead had he not gotten spun in the start of the race, and that's something maybe we can talk to him about, see his thoughts on when that happened. And you know, I'm not gonna lie, when he got spun, I kind of thought, oh well, that's it for him. That usually there's no cautions in road racing, and that's gonna be. That's it. That was his chance of winning right there. Didn't even have a chance to even participate. And then I forgot, you know, we forgot that there's a scheduled stage break, a scheduled caution break on lap 17, and that helped him out a lot. And, you know, even then, even if he didn't have that scheduled caution break, he made up a lot of time. He was only 20 seconds behind first place when the caution came out, and he moved himself back up into third. So, you know, I think Nick In-Dee-Car is going to be the rightful winner should he hold off these next 24 laps.
Yeah, he looks like a whole different race car, and now he is overtaking the top of the grid right now. He was running lockstep with John DeBarro there for a few laps, but now has just found a different gear inside that 4 machine. He's hitting those corners very, very clean, Carlos, but keep a watchful eye, though, because we saw Min Hong have that lead there, and make just the smallest of mistake, overdrove 1 corner, and that killed all the momentum, all the speed he had at the top of the grid. So keep a watchful eye on that here with 24 laps to go. Taking a look at the rest of the field here, we're going to check back in with our in-race reporter, Zach Evans here. He's in the 8th position here. He's really kind of drove that position here all night. Maybe a top 10 finish if he's able to hold on to that. Has some drivers behind him there as well. He's holding off the 30 of Josh Robinson, our last chance qualifier for the Dash for Cash here tonight in that 30 machine. But Zach's ran a pretty clean race here tonight. Carlos, of course, hasn't been in the mix at the top there inside the top 5 or top 3. He's really doing a great job here at the road course.
Yeah, I gotta say, Zach Evans is very proud of his efforts here tonight. Very proud of his efforts here. Last week as well, had a good finish. This week also looking to get a top 10 finish. You know, of course, there weren't too many drivers out here tonight, but Zach Evans, aside from maybe going wide a couple times, making a couple mistakes, has been running in the top 10, running positions above where he qualified this whole race. So Zach Evans, if he can hold on and have a nice, strong finish here, definitely a well-deserved pat in the back for all the trouble he's had recently. And he goes a little wide here, just a little as they're talking about him, but it'll be nice to see just the awesome runs that this guy can push on through. And unfortunately, I'm seeing this pretty much every single lap at this point, and I hate to bring it up, but I'm just constantly seeing news regarding Cameron Perez, who's up ahead of where Zach Evans is. He's constantly being shown as off track, and so he's struggling right now. Cameron Perez is in that number 1 machine. I was trying to see what else is going on. There's DJ Weeks and Min Hong right behind, as they're also battling pretty close. But yeah, you gotta keep an eye out. These tires are starting to get a little warm. So the more aggressive you drive, the looser it's gonna be. The less control you're gonna have throughout the corner, especially under braking. And you're gonna be seeing a lot of drivers making a lot of mistakes. Every single lap.
You see Min Hong overtake a position there. And one thing, Carlos, that I kind of wanted to talk to you about here, we saw that small mistake out of Min Hong there. We saw him overdrive that corner, lose positions on the racetrack. We also saw, I believe he also had a little bit of a spin as well when off track. But we see what two small, very, very small mistakes can cost you here. Min Hong was a top 2 driver on the racetrack, qualified on the pole. We spoke to him there at that break on lap 17. You could hear the confidence in his voice. You could almost feel that he was going to have a good run here tonight. Although he is inside the top 5, Carlos, you know, it's going to be a little bit discouraging and disappointing for Ming right now with 22 laps to go, seeing as though you had one of the fastest cars on the track, but at this stage in the race, you might not even have a shot for the race win.
No, I think he's too far back. He's only 15 seconds back from the race lead. I think at best, Ming Hong could potentially get 3rd place back, but unfortunately, I think regardless of what happens, he has to get out of the way of Bustos. That's going to put Ming Hong back up into 3rd. I think regardless of what happens, whether he finishes 3rd or worse, he's not going to be happy with himself. He feels like he could have been there. He could have challenged for that win, and it's really the attempt of what you know. It's the attempt that you miss that really upsets you when you know you can't even attempt to do something. So I'm sure he's going to be very, very upset about his results here tonight.
And that's something that we almost, you know, not to spotlight a driver here in the DSCR, but that's something that we mention almost to start every broadcast is Min Hong's performances here. He's one of the strongest cars to take each track, whether it's speedway, super speedway, short track. He's one of the strongest cars out there, Carlos, but just the trend of this season, he's just never really been able to finish the way he wants to. It's almost like Groundhog's Day here. Shout out to Bill Murray. We almost say the same broadcast to where if he could just break through and get a performance and stack him up, although he's running part-time now, it just seemed to be the same trend for Ming here this season at DSCR.
Yeah, actually, why don't you go ahead and continue talking for a little bit? Gotta take care of a small issue here that popped up.
Yeah, no worries there as we're taking a look at Nick In-Dee-Car, the race leader on the left-hand corner of your screen here on 3Wide TV. We're live on YouTube here. I appreciate everybody for tuning in here tonight. We know road course racing is not everybody's forte. Could get a little dirty, if to say the least here. But Nick In-Dee-Car has done a great job of working through the grid. He took his time with John DeBarro. He overtook there just a few laps ago, 5 laps ago to be precise. But right now, holding off, John DeBarro now has about a 3-second lead on DeBarro. DeBarro has run one heck of a race himself as well. He's been inside the top 2 here the majority of the proceedings. Min Hong is now up into 3rd. We were just speaking about him. He was one of the top cars on the racetrack as well. Our pole sitter here at the Indy Road Course had 2 very, very small mistakes that cost him a lot of positions on the racetrack. I believe dropped him down into about 10th or 11th. Have done a great job of working up through the grid right here. But currently with 20 laps to go, looks like Nick In-Dee-Car will pick up another race victory here. If he can hold on, I say that with the biggest emphasis possible, because we have seen what the smallest mistakes can cost you here at the road course, as we're seeing Johnny Eckert head down pit road right now, exiting pit road. Johnny Eckert has been a pretty good driver here tonight. We saw him battling up for the lead as well there, Carlos.
Yeah, we sure did. But you were talking about, you know, it looks like In-Dee-Car is going to have this race victory in the bag. He's a very smart driver, but, you know, we also saw Ming Hong, who's currently in 3rd right now, make a couple mistakes before the caution and after the caution. DeBarro been running relatively smoothly. You haven't seen a mistake out of him, but In-Dee-Car, you know, we got the biggest possible mistake any driver can make coming up, and that's going down Pier Road. We already saw a couple drivers already going down Pier Road. Thankfully, it looks like there's no issues with any of those drivers. But In-Dee-Car, what if he speeds? What if he speeds before he enters his pit stall? That's an additional, I believe, 30 seconds you're being held in pit lane. That's 30 seconds you're going to lose, regardless of you know how fast you are entering Pier Road or not. As we see, Busta's going. That's not Busta. Excuse me. The White Claw machine is 83 of Tom Algo going down pit road. But even worse, if you speed exiting your stall, you know, you're not going to be held in pit lane, you know, for a couple seconds. You have to go around and go do a drive-through the next time by. And that's going to be even worse than being held 30 seconds.
Yeah, indeed, Carlos. Anything can really happen here at the road course. It could be a small mistake on a corner. You could give it too much beans, as you like to say, exiting a corner. You can overshoot your pit stall here because it is a tricky way of getting down pit road here on the front stretch. Even though it is a front stretch pit stall, you still have to kind of time it just right to get down pit road there. Coming off a little bit of the corners there, and you see we're taking another look at our in-race reporter, Zach Evans, there. And one thing that I wanted to point out, Carlos, the last time we checked in with him, you watch the hand movement and the things that he has to do here during these proceedings. With all the corners, with all the downshifting, with all the braking, you have to account for about 4 or 5 different things here on the racetrack. You have to account for your upshift, your downshift. You have to account for your steering ratio. You have to account for your braking ratio as well. And you have to account for that acceleration out of some of these corners. So a lot of things come into play when we take on the road course here in these next-gen race cars.
Yeah, a lot of calculations these drivers have to go through every single time. But remember, also these are next-gen cars, so we don't have to use the old paddle shift, or excuse me, we don't have to use the old stick shift like we used to before. With these new next-gen, a lot of the wheels that iRacing supports, they let us use the paddle shifters on the side of the wheels. If some drivers may have the sequential shifters, but for a lot of these drivers, just paddle shifting pretty much the whole way, which is going to be a lot easier than it used to be before, when you would have to go into the corner, slow down, go from fourth all the way down to second, maybe even first, as we got the 74 going around just a little bit. A little too much beans exiting the corner. That's the number 74 of Jake Bustos, as Dallas My Hand and number 29 Machine is going down Pier Road.
Yeah, and Dallas Myhan out of Shifty Sports there, Carlos, has had a great run in the modifieds that he runs on Tuesday nights just before these broadcasts on Wednesday nights. Excellent driver there in the modified series. Here in the next-gen race cars, really overshadowed, I would have to say, from Nick and Delicato. Seth Ross is really good in these cars as well. So Dallas is trying to poke through the stable of Shifty Esports. They also run the Oscar series on Thursday nights as well. So what a stable of drivers they have there at Shifty Esports. And what we've seen here in the DSCR is that these drivers really put in the time, they really put in the practice, like all drivers do. But you really see the cohesiveness and the teamwork that a lot of these drivers work with week in and week out.
Yeah, well said. Especially all those that you're talking about that do multiple leagues within a week. That also helps kind of build like the confidence and the skill overall, regardless of if they're running modifieds on Tuesdays, next gen cars on Wednesdays, and then they go and run the B cars or the Xfinity cars on Thursdays. So a lot of these guys, they get a lot of racing going on throughout the whole week, just like we have a lot of broadcasting we do throughout the whole week. And that helps build speed, helps build confidence, and helps build the ability to put together races. And a lot of these guys, we've seen people make mistakes, especially in the later half of the track, how difficult and complex it is with some of these 90-degree corners. But the mistakes they're making relatively appear to be kind of small, as Josh Robinson is going to go down Pier Road right now. Not too many big mistakes. The biggest mistake I would say we've seen so far is the start of the race, and the mistake that we saw Ming Hong do at pretty much the restart, 17 laps later, as we actually have 17 laps to go here this time by. But the rest of the field, a lot of tiny little mistakes which do add up. Don't get me wrong, they do add up. But they're still running competitively. We don't have too many cars out of this race. Only 13 drivers, only 12 drivers out on track right now, Buffoli being last in 12th. McIntosh, who unfortunately with all the issues he's got going on in this race, decided to back out a little early. He was one of your Dash for Cash drivers. Paul Hemus, out of the race. Wester Green left, I believe, before the 5 laps into this race, and the number 9 George actually never started tonight's race. William George, believe he will be credited with a Will, help me out here. I forgot what it's called. Provisional. Thank you. Thank you, Will.
Provisional.
But you're talking about the Dash for Cash.
Yeah, no, the Dash for Cash drivers here, we're taking a look at the little recap of going on right now. Of course, Nick and Delicato, our race leader, he was our number 1 qualifier, or I believe he qualified second, finishing second last week. Johnny Eckert's down in the 5th position. That is our next Dash for Cash driver on the grid right now. Josh Robinson is in the 9th position, and then you just spoke about Ty McIntosh. Not having his favorite night here, I'd have to say there. Carlos coming off a huge victory last weekend at Pocono. here tonight. He had just basically had enough of the road course here tonight. He's going to retire that race car. He's going to come home 13th here tonight. But I'm just looking at the rest of this field, Carlos. Just taking a quick look at the grid. You know, we just went over
Oh,
the
my
Dash
hand.
for Cash driver. And you see my hand's going to have a little bit of trouble there out of that right.
Oh, my hand.
Try to save that thing.
All right, well, it was a little loosey-goosey there, trying to get back on track, but he did a great job of not getting any worse. He did lose 2 spots. He got passed by Tom Hogo in the White Claw machine and the 08 Alex Buffoli, as Ming Hong has gone down pit road. So we saw him, a possible driver that could have contended for the win, making a mistake early, right before stage 1 ended, and then making an even bigger mistake pretty much a couple corners into the first restart of the night. So Ming Hong not going to be too happy with his results, but you know, he's not out here competing for championship. We talked to him earlier. He's only going to be running part-time pretty much the rest of the season, not running next week. Going to be running at Charlotte, and then possibly running 2 or 3 playoff races to end the season. So Ming Hong not really concerned if he does make or doesn't make the playoffs here in 3 weeks. So in general, though, he's not going to be too happy with his results here tonight, whether he finishes third or finishes worst, I should say. As actually our race leader, Nick Delicato, is going down pit road. We're going to focus on him because this is the moment where he could possibly ruin his race if he speeds at any point down pit road. And will they actually have the limit on pit road here?
Yeah, we're going to see right now if he's going to be able to hit that box just right. Nick Delicato is our race leader on the track we were just speaking about, as well as him being the leader for the Dash for Cash right now. We're going to watch him take that pit box. As Carlos said, this is that moment in the race where he has to hit it just right. If he does not, he's going to cost himself a lot of time on the racetrack. We'll see right here. Is that on it there, Carlos?
Yeah, he's on it.
Oh,
yeah, the Indianapolis,
just barely by a nose.
the Indianapolis pit lane is a little narrow, little short, I should say. But yeah, it looks like he's going to be A-OK. This is the biggest part, though. If he speeds now, he's going to have to do a drive-through, and not the fun kind where you end up with food afterwards. It's going to be the slow kind where you just lose the race.
Hey, Carlos, you know drive-thrus down in Florida are about the slowest things you can go through, especially McDonald's. So I don't know how it is down in Miami, but
McDonald's at 2 a.m. is the slowest thing ever. I don't know why. It's just there's so many people at 2 a.m. trying to get a cheeseburger, and it's so slow.
It's those adult Happy Meals now. I think it's the craze.
Yeah, well, good luck trying to find one. I've been trying to find one for since it's come out now. You can't find them anywhere. But John Navarro is going down pit road right now. 61. We saw him having I would say of all the drivers, he's running the strongest, most consistent race of them all. Just isn't quick enough to match Nick Delicato, and he was quick enough to kind of match Ming Hong, but I feel like Ming Hong may have been faster overall. It's just Ming Hong was just a little too, just made a little too many mistakes there for him. As Zach Evans, also strong, consistent race. I'm really proud of that guy right there. Exiting pit road right now. Got on track. Let's ride on board with him for a little bit once again. Try to get the maximum out of that in-car camera that we mounted on him.
Yeah, and take a look once again at our in-car reporter there, Carlos.
Oh, the 08 of Buffoli.
Yeah, just, some of these drivers here tonight, we spoke about it to start off this broadcast. We've mentioned it a few times as well. This is the only road course we'll see this season without knowing what a lot of these drivers race through in their regular iRacing schedules. It might be the only road course they'll see throughout all leagues they race in. So, not a lot of experience being shown here tonight. But as you mentioned, though, Carlos, with the exception of that first lap mishap we had with a few drivers spinning their tires, we've seen a couple of drivers struggle with the 90-degree corners. But one thing that we haven't really seen, Carlos, and I'm actually kind of impressed by it, is no drivers, whether you're in the top position or the lower end positions here on the track, no real drivers have struggled with the chicane corners or the roundabout corners there where you have to kind of go in and out, left and right, upshift, downshift. A lot of these drivers have hit those corners actually pretty perfect here tonight. We've seen a couple drivers get a little wide on exit, a little to the inside, but not a lot of mistakes in the hardest parts of the racetrack, just about the 90-degree corners is where we've seen the most mistakes here tonight, Carlos. And I'm pretty impressed by that, seeing as though this is the only road course of the season.
Yep, Cameron Perez was your race leader. Is not going down pit lane. So he'll be giving up his spot back up to Nick Delicado, who did not make a mistake at all during pit road during the whole green flag pit stop sequence. So he'll be at the leader, and realistically now at this point he probably has a 99% chance of winning this whole race.
Yeah, you can't say 99% anything. We saw the St. Louis Cardinals have a 2-0 lead with one out in the top of the ninth inning, and they ended up losing 6-3. So you can't count for anything here, especially if it's racing. Anything can happen on the racetrack. Nick and Delicado can have a simple mistake, maybe overdrive one of those 90 degrees that opens the door for John DeBarlo to make it close. He might not be close enough to make a pass, but he might be close enough to give a little bit of a pressure on Nick and Delicado with 12 laps to go. But right now we're seeing another great run out of that number 90 machine of Johnny Eckert there, right up there in the third position. We saw Johnny battling for the lead. We actually saw him hold the lead for just a brief moment here on the racetrack. But right now is going to finish with a podium finish if everything holds the way it is here tonight.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, because I was trying to figure out, wait, how did he get to third? Wasn't Ming Hong pretty much contending for that third place spot? But I just looked at it right now. Ming Hong had a 30-second pit lane time, or pit stall time, I should say. It means he got held for speeding. Not only that, but he's all the way down in 12th. He is the last car on the lead lap. And while we do have some drivers that will need to pit again, actually looking at it now, I don't think anybody else really actually needs to pit again. I think Min Hong has pretty much killed the rest remaining part of his race. So he's all the way down in 12th, nearly a lap down. He's not fully a lap down. He's nearly a lap down. There's your race leader right behind him. Whatever's going on with Ming Hong, he's not going to be too happy. The whole team, his whole camp is not going to be too happy at the end of the race.
Yeah, and similar to the Miami Dolphins, that perfect start for Min Hong has
I don't want to talk about that.
Slipped away here tonight. He has now dropped to basically the last car on the lead lap here. We're looking at Nick and Delicado right behind him in that Ford machine. It's just unraveled for Ming here tonight. Once he overdrove that 90 degree, once he spun out, that car, it just looks like it's sliding underneath him now. So whatever adjustments he may have made down pit road, definitely didn't make that car better here tonight. You spoke about how he's running a part-time schedule. So it's just going to be a very discouraging end to a once promising start to this race here at the road course.
Yeah, and actually, taking a look right now, Nick and Delicado just ran the fastest lap of the race at a 1 minute 28 seconds. 0.62. That's fast, or 6:16. That's very fast, and Delicado's running the fastest lap of the race. He's running away with this, pretty much has been ever since the halfway point of the race, and with no cautions at all that are going to be coming out. It's looking very likely that Delicado can make a mistake here. He can make a mistake here and there, and he'll still come out here as the race winner.
And oh my God! With those football,
he just ran the fastest lap again.
Yeah, and I was going to say, to stick with those football references, he is similar to Tom Brady in this aspect. He gets better with time as these races proceed. It's almost like he gets faster, whether it's on a super speedway, on a short track race, on a regular speedway. Nick and Delicado waits until it is crunch time to really turn on the heat, to turn on the nitrous, if you will, inside of that Ford machine. And he just checks out. We saw him running lockstep with John DeBarlo, I would say, Carlos, for about 4 or 5 laps or so. Once he overtook John, we almost saw it just, it's almost like you used to say it's the Kyle Busch speed. Once Kyle Busch overtook for the lead, he used to check out on the rest of the field, of course, with the next-gen cars. They've kind of killed that aspect. But you're seeing out of Nick and Delicado this season here in the DSCR, he waits his time. He kind of plays with everybody else for a little bit. But then once he's able to get that car out in the open air, it's really game over for anybody behind him.
Yeah, and usually for the majority of the field, it's been happening with the final 10% of the races. But today, he's pretty much putting him a whooping. It looked like Paul Hemos was trying to prevent this from happening very early on. As soon as the race started, with a tap in the back of Delicado, sending him spinning before they even got to turn 1 on lap number 1. And well, looking at it now, the halfway point, he got the lead, and since then he has not looked back, with the exception of the green flag pit stop changes and everything. But nobody really counts that.
No, not at all there. But it was cool to have that break in the action on lap 17. It gave the grid an opportunity to come back together. And what that really did was it kind of reshuffled everything. It gave everybody a chance to kind of take their breath, kind of re-examine how they were taking this racetrack here. And I think, you know, we spoke about a few other drivers of how that was beneficial too. But for Nick and Delicato, I think that was a huge game changer for him because he was able to recover from that first mistake on the first. Oh man, that 08 just really fighting that thing around here tonight. This is another mistake that we're seeing out of that 08 machine here. Gonna take the off-road shortcut of that corner there, Carlos.
Yeah, he may find himself with a time penalty here and there. Penalty he'll have, or slowdown penalty, I should say, the one that he'll have to slow down for. But yeah, Meng Hong, that's another spot for Meng Hong, as he's now up to 11th, so he's not the last driver on the lead lap, or even let alone the last driver out on track. As now that is Buffoli, who we've also seen him struggling this whole last half, and especially these last couple laps. He's gone wide. He's missed turn 1. I've seen that happen. He kind of took that line that we saw. Who's a Cup driver that almost won that race? Just overshooting it on the outside, on turn 1 in the real life one.
Oh, you're testing me now here, Carlos.
I can't remember who it was.
Because we just had the Roval last week, so I'm trying to. Oh man.
Oh, don't worry about it. Yeah, don't worry about that.
I remember last week's NASCAR race though. That race was filled with a little bit of controversy there at the end, and then the top, I believe the top 8 was locked in as well. Can't believe Kyle Larson didn't make it. That's wild to see the defending champion not even get a chance to defend his crown there at the end. But
yeah,
disappointing season for that 5 machine.
It was not the best season for that 5, like you mentioned. Definitely a change of events compared to last year, with only the 1 win compared to his 11 wins last season. So definitely big change. Of course, we're going to be seeing that with the new car that came out this year. We have 18 different winners this season, so that's amazing. A lot of first-time winners, especially among veteran drivers. So good to see. So of course, some people aren't going to be winning as much compared to last year, but even so, that's a big drop. But still, nothing to really be concerned about. It's a strong team with a strong driver. They'll bounce back next season.
And I'm still psyched that there's an underdog in the mix as well. We saw Daniel Suarez unfortunately get eliminated, finishing about, I believe, 9 points out of that cut line. But Ross Chastain's still in the mix for the championship. They're racing out of Trackhouse Racing, and that's considered an underdog in the Cup Series. Nothing was really thought of those 2 drivers this season, and those 2 drivers have really been the most consistent of anybody this season, with 2 of their drivers out of that stable qualifying for the chase, if you will, whatever it's called here, Carlos. I lose the name or whatever they call it
it's
now.
It's just playoffs now.
The playoffs, I guess. But those 2 drivers out of one of the smallest teams in NASCAR qualify for those Cup standings. So Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez, I look for big things out of them next year here, but Ross Chastain's still in the mix there. I know he's not everybody's favorite, but he can come home maybe with that chip there at the end.
Yeah, indeed. It'll be interesting to see the Trackhouse cars as Delicato makes the first mistake of the night.
We talked about this.
Yeah, but he can afford this. It's not that big of a deal. He can make a couple small mistakes, as you see all the way back there, John DeBarro. But yeah, he's lost a decent amount of time, a couple seconds here and there. He can make one more mistake, but after that he probably won't be able to do much. As there's an issue with the Me Fine machine, who has now dropped 2 more spots and is now in 11th, and actually might be in danger of being lapped. So something happened to Zach Evans, as he's still struggling out here as well. He's off track still. Something big must have happened. Let's go ahead and switch on over to the replay cam and see just what happened to the 6. A Me Fine machine is right now. That Me Fine machine is Me No Fine, and oh man, made that big mistake that we've seen a bunch of drivers do. We've seen Zach make this mistake already before in this race. At least once, had to stop. Not sure why he had to stop. Maybe to let some of these guys go by, but because of all this, he has found himself 1 lap down and in 12th place. So big drop. This is what he was struggling. Wasn't able to get back out on track. Had to let the leaders go by. Had to let a couple others go by. And this is just a lot of lost time for the number 6 of Zach Evans in that Me Find machine.
Could he have stalled that thing out there? When you're trying to make that 90 degree, of course you're downshifting. Then he hit into that little corner there. It looked like he may have just stalled it out there and then had to turn the race car back on, get back onto the gears. And when he was doing that, Nick and Delicato came up there. He was already in the grass, so he just figured, I don't want to interfere at all there. But he really interfered with Nick and Delicato here with 6 laps to go. Still our race leader on the racetrack. John DeBarro has been inside the top 2 here. I'd say, Carlos, for the majority of the race here tonight. I'm pretty impressed, though, from Johnny Eckert in that 90 machine. If everything holds the way it is right now, he'll come home with another top 3 finish here.
Yeah, and, you know, Eckert has definitely had a mixed results season in this league where he's seen pretty much all of his bad luck come and settle in. He's had a couple good races here and there, but he's actually made a lot of mistakes that were pretty much on his own. He's been caught up in a couple incidents, but majority of the time, you're usually finding him smacking the outside wall by himself or just pushing his car too hard. But it's nice to see him finish, potentially finish here in the top 3, getting a podium spot and taking a look to see where he finished last week. And last week, I believe, was not a good week for him.
I think I figured it out, though, Carlos. I think last week he finished...
Oh, last week he finished 4th, so never. Last week was a good week for him.
4th. I think I figured it out, Carlos. You know, looking on Discord there, we use all of our messaging and everything, our point standings as well. You know, FC Byron is his avatar, if you will, and FC Byron's on a bit of a winning streak here, so maybe he's carrying that happiness of his favorite soccer team winning into his car here, especially with Byron picking up the 4-2 win today in the Champions League. He may be feeling a little bit happy-go-lucky, and that's causing him to have good races here in the DSCR.
Well, that's good. You know, if that's what helps him get and compete better and get some great results, and more power to him. You know, right now only 10 seconds back. DeBarro makes a mistake. That's a spot right there. He's close enough. If you make a big mistake like we saw with Zach Evans or even saw with Nick and Delicato, you're losing 3 to 6 seconds depending on how bad it is. And you know that's good enough to get past DeBarro. I think Nick and Delicato can afford to make one small mistake before it gets pretty hard with 4 to go. But at this point, Delicato just doesn't want to make any mistakes at all. Gets a little. That's not
he locks
too bad.
it up.
That's not too bad. That's too bad. He just lost some time there.
Ooh, things are getting a little sweaty here up in the booth. We're not sweating too much here at Indy as it's fall in Indianapolis, so the weather is pretty cool. But we're starting to see kind of the shoes come a little untied there from Nick and Delicato. We're starting to see him just make these little tiny mistakes. And sometimes these little mistakes can build up to an even bigger mistake if he doesn't keep his focus here with these 4 laps to go. John DeBarro is not too far off pace. They're only about 5 or 6 seconds off. So another little small mistake might close that window a little bit more to give John maybe just the slightest opportunity to catch Nick and Delicato there at the top of the grid.
Hey, check this out. What kind of noticed here is that, DeBarro can be catching up on him. He's running consistent laps, but Johnny Eckert is outpacing both of them pretty bigly, as I should say. Small issue for the 08 up fully in front of him, as Eckert not too far away. Definitely, I think Eckert could potentially just get past DeBarro by himself, and Eckert could be in a position to win should Delicato make a mistake. But right now, DeBarro right now not really able to match the same speed that Eckert has. Look at that, 1.3 seconds faster than Delicato himself.
Yeah, he's going to try to use that pace of the 08 to lead him into this 90. Ooh, that was so close there on the 90 degree. Oh my goodness. Taking a look there. As you mentioned, though, every time we take a look at John DeBarro there in that second position, we see that 90 come into focus every single... There he is once again. Each camera view that we take a look at John DeBarro, that 90 pops in that bright pink machine there driven by Johnny Eckert. And as you mentioned, he might have an opportunity to increase his grid position here, maybe creep up inside that top 2 here. And what a finish that would be from Johnny Eckert here. representing that breast cancer awareness machine here in the month of October. That is a great cause to represent here, especially in this month. So shout out to all those survivors and all those people who have battled breast cancer out there, all those people that have gone through those battles. Maybe they've lost loved ones to that battle as well, but we'd love to give that opportunity to shout out Breast Cancer Awareness Month here in the month of October. It should be something that we recognize all year long. It is a disease, it is a sickness that affects a lot of people here across the world. But good on Johnny Eckert for representing that cause here in the DSCR. But with him right there, you see him trying to close the gap here, Carlos, but he might run out of time here with 2 laps to go.
Yep, 2 laps to go here at the In-Dee-Car Grand Prix. And I do think Eckert can get that second place spot, but for sure won't be able to get the lead unless In-Dee-Car makes a Jeff Gordon-esque mistake going down to turn 1 of Watkins Glen in 2007. You know, if he does something like that, then we may see Johnny Eckert get that win if he does get past John Tabarro. But if he doesn't and is able to run smoothly this whole next lap, you know, we're going to be seeing Mr. 6-time get his, or Mr. 5-time get his 6th win of the season here.
Yeah, with 2 laps to go, we're watching Nick In-Dee-Car close out another race victory here tonight. We want to take this opportunity to shout out all those sponsors that make this racing possible here in the Dynasty Stock Car Racing League, one of which is Many Rays. Many Rays provides all that cemetery landscaping that you need, keeping those headstones nice, keeping those grave sites nice as well. Shout out to Many Rays. And of course, Carlos, it's that mistake that we made to start off the broadcast here in the DSCR. Pro Air, we thought that was an AC company to start off this thing. That is a medical supply company, so shout out to Pro Air and Many Rays for making all the action possible here in the DSCR. They are wonderful sponsors here. They've been with us the duration of the season, so shout out to those 2 wonderful sponsors here. But this is the final lap at the Indy Grand Prix here in the DSCR as Nick In-Dee-Car is going to take us down into corner number 1 the last time around the road course.
Yeah, and Johnny Eckert still close enough, within a second now of Tabarro. I think Johnny Eckert wants to get that second place spot. He's going to be very happy if he does. I'm sure he believes that one is pretty much out of the window, but how about our Dash for Cash drivers 1st, 3rd, and 7th? McIntosh was running pretty decently before he had to back out. But you know, good run, especially by In-Dee-Car, who, if he wins again, he's gonna for sure lock up every single Dash for Cash event of the year. Since this is the last one and he wins this, he would have swept them all.
He's wearing those Gucci loafers. He's got that bag locked up here tonight. He is feeling all good with that rollie on his wrist, with all that cash in that bag here, sweeping all the Dash for Cash races. We don't want to call it too soon, but it looks like he will get the race victory here tonight. But folks, we have a battle for second place ensuing right now as Johnny Eckert trying to increase his position on the grid. He has his eyes set on John Tabarro. He might run out of racetrack here on the final lap. See if he has a run here. Gonna go down to the last little bit of corners here. He's got that Mustang right on the back bumper of John Tabarro. He's gonna try to inch that nose out right there. Just not going to be enough here on the last chicane corners, but Nick In-Dee-Car is going to take us on to the race course once again. Crossing the start-finish line is Nick In-Dee-Car, Mr. 5-time, wins again
Johnny
here at the DSCR, but we have a battle for a second here. Whoa,
He did it.
drag race down the front stretch. We'll see who gets it.
It was Eckert. He was able to get to his outside and get a really fun drag race type of battle there for that second place spot. And John Tabarro, who pretty much was second this whole race, if not leading, is gonna be introduced to 3rd place here with like the final 0.0001% of the race remaining.
Wow, we'll have to replay that for the folks at home because we were watching Nick In-Dee-Car win his 5th race of the season here at the Indy Road Course. But we had a drag race down the front stretch here for his second, Carlos. But watch it here. This is the last bit of chicanes right here. Johnny Eckert gets his nose right there. He's going to ride that momentum around the corner, and then they're going to drag race down that front stretch.
What a beautiful move by Eckert to pinch that car as quickly as he could to the outside, making some slight contact, although I don't think he needed to do that at all. He definitely had the momentum and the speed to get that second place finish.
Man, that's what I love to see there. You just ride that momentum down the front stretch. You secure that second place finish. What a run it was out of that 90 machine of Johnny Eckert after an early mistake. But taking a look at that 4 machine, taking his victory lap around the road course here, Carlos. We're running out of adjectives to describe the type of season Nick Indelicado's had here in the DSCR. Almost won last week, just ran out of laps there at the end of the race, almost chasing down Ty McIntosh. There's only been, I believe, 1 or 2 instances where he hasn't won this season. What else can you say about Nick Indelicado's performance this season?
Well, right now he's trying to channel his inner Takumi Fujiwara there, trying to run himself in the 90s as he's going to be celebrating his 6th win of the season across the start-finish line. Let's go ahead and go over here through our final race results as we see Dynasty my hand also pushing in through the front stretch there, backing off here at the last minute. I think he may have forgotten where pit road was, but so again, congratulations to Nick Indelicado on his 6th win of the season for Shift Esports. Johnny Eckert finishing in second, just barely able to outlast John DeBarro and get right to his outside, get the momentum on his way as he gets second place, John DeBarro third. DJ Weeks, birthday boy, finishing in fourth. Jake Bustos in fifth. Cameron Perez, Cameron Perez had he struggled out here tonight. A lot of many mistakes, but was able to finish strong in sixth place. Josh Robinson in seventh, our Dash for Cash driver. Ming Hong, as unfortunate for Ming, definitely had the car to win. Our first repeat pole sitter of the season, got a second pole here tonight. Tom Ogo in ninth. That is my hand finishing a decent 10th. Zach Evans, oh man, it hurts to see him running so strong pretty much 90% of the race and then making a big mistake and dropping all the way down to 12th before moving up into 11th. Alex Buffoli finishing in 12th. Ty McIntosh, early retirement in 13th. Barry Paul Hemus getting involved with race winner Nick Indelicado to start the race before they even got to turn 1. Finishing in 14th. David Westergreen another early retirement very early on in 15th. And William George actually never started tonight's race at all. So that's going to do it here for us in terms of the final results. I'm going to go ahead and step away to take care of some back-end stuff while Will handles here all the post-race interviews.
Yeah, it's time to speak with our top 3 finishers here at the Indy Road Course, and one of which was holding on to that top 2 position here. Majority of the race gets overtaken from Johnny Eckert there, and John DeBarlo, you finished 3rd here tonight. Thought you were going to hold on to that 2nd position, but it looks like you may have been chatting with Johnny Eckert there about that finish. Take us through your race here tonight, and that was one heck of a finish we saw you 2 down the front stretch.
Yeah, it was a fun race there. Fun racing the 4 cars. Good clean battle. Guys just faster than all of us, man. Every week, he just seems to be able to get the most out of the tires. And for sure, at the end of that 2nd stint there, I just wasn't putting down quick enough lap times. And then yeah, that last stint there, I took left sides only, just trying to do something a little different. And chatting with Johnny there in the waiting room, he did the same thing. So he just had more pace at the end there. And then yeah, I got held up by the lap car there. I mean, since there are predominantly oval racers, I assume, so I guess not everybody knows what blue flags are, and chatting with him here doesn't sound like he knows what they are, so sucks to lose a place like that, but it's only 1 point. All in all, good points today, good to win both stages, and hopefully that makes a difference when it comes playoff time. I know I had a lot to make up to get to the cut line, so we'll see where I stand after this.
Yeah, we saw you sweep both stages there, but there was kind of like an interchange of leaders at the top of the grid. We had Min Hong up there. Johnny Ecker was actually leading the race for a little bit as well. You were never able to poke through, take over the race lead there. But I'd have to say you ran one of the cleanest races here at the road course. Take us through what your road course experience is and how you're able to keep that race car so clean here tonight. And as mentioned, you really never drifted further back than maybe 3rd place here tonight. I think 3rd might have been your lowest position on the racetrack, really racing in the top 2 throughout. What is it about this road course, as it's the only road course we'll see this season in the DSCR, that you really performed well at?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to iRacing, I drive predominantly GT3 cars, so definitely have a lot of laps at this track, some laps here in IndyCar as well, so definitely love road racing. This is a fun track too, especially with this car, but I mean, yeah, I can't be mad about my pace there. I don't think I locked up or overshot one corner, kept it clean, so did all I could do, just didn't have the pace at the on the old tires there, but I saw in my mirror on lap 1, the 4 car spin behind me, and I said to my buddies watching the stream and along in Discord with me, I said the 4 car will find a way to get back up there in the end, and sure enough he did. I mean, we've seen it before, so credit to him for just hanging in there and just putting down fast laps. I peeked at my relative before I made my first pit stop, and I was like, man, he's only 20 seconds behind me. So I knew the 3 was really fast, so I knew these were all the guys I was gonna have to contend with. But at the end of the day, good points haul. So fun racing, not bad.
Yeah, and I guess I'll touch on that real quick too. That four car, it really closed the gap on you. Did you start to feel that pressure starting to build just a little bit when you started to see that four in your rear view? And when he made the pass on you, did you feel like that might have been your race? You know, it's a shame to admit it, but once he does get past somebody there in the second spot, he seems to check out once he gets in clean air.
Yeah, I knew that was the case there. I knew if he was going to pass me, he was going to be in that corner. I wasn't getting good runs out of that chicane. As far as feeling the pressure, like at that stage of the race, I was running my fastest lap, so just trying to run my pace and save my tires. But that's really all I could do. I put up a bit of a defense and I held him off, I think, for about a lap and a half. But in the end, that was the spot in the track where he was just considerably faster. And yeah, that once he got by me, I knew it was going to take a mistake from him or
Right.
maybe trying something different on pit road to get back ahead of him.
Well, you mentioned it, John DeBarro. You finished third here tonight. You mentioned about your point standings, not inside the cut line just yet, but with the performance here tonight, I'm sure you're going to work on that point standings here. We head to Dover and next week. How are you feeling about that race at Dover? And do you feel like you can carry that confidence from this road course into Dover Downs next week?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I don't think I've ever been to Dover in this car, but have kind of been there in the last generation of cars. So I like the track a lot, like multiple grooves. So gonna be interesting to see how it races with this car. I'd imagine like dirty air will be big there, so will be important to like qualify well and keep track position. So definitely have to put some practice in to get my lap times where I need to be there. But yeah, I think that'll be a fun race and hopefully can make up some more points.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it, my man. A third place finish here tonight on the podium. With that podium finish, we love to give you drivers the opportunity to shout out anybody that you might have had watching here tonight, any sponsors that made this race possible, and where people can find you on social media.
Yeah, I'll just shout out my friends Billy and Sal hanging out with me in Discord, watching your guys stream, keeping me aware of everything that's going on in the race. So kind of my de facto spotters and crew chiefs. So appreciate those guys watching along with me, and appreciate you guys putting on this broadcast and all the admins for putting the league on. It's been a lot of fun and a good night.
Awesome, John. Well, it was a great run out of you here tonight. As mentioned, you kept that car clean. You were holding on to second for the longest time. You finished here third after that drag race with Johnny Eckert at the end of the race. But, John, we look forward to seeing you here next week in the DSCR. Congratulations on that podium finish here tonight. Enjoy the rest of your week, my man, and have a great night. We appreciate you taking the time with us.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Enjoy the rest of your week as well.
That was John DeBarlo. He's going to finish third here tonight after drag racing with Johnny Eckert down the front stretch. And as John mentioned, he could have been our road course ringer with all the road course he has experience with here in iRacing. But unfortunately, he's going to come home third here tonight. It's not unfortunate, but he was one of the fastest cars on the track other than Nick and Delicato. But it's time to speak with the guy who beat him down that front stretch there. He's celebrating not only FC Byron's 4-2 win here today, but finishing second on the racetrack as well. Johnny Eckert in that 90 machine, my man, you had that early mistake where you got spun out. You're able to overcome that in a huge fashion, finishing second here tonight. Take us through your point of view of tonight's race and how are you able to beat one of the fastest cars of John DeBarro down that front stretch to finish second here.
Yeah, I was a little lost for words at the start of the race. I mean, I felt like I had a good start and I was in good shape. And then going down the backstretch, I just completely missed the braking point on cold tires and had to come to a complete stop, turn around, remerge, and then there was another incident in the final chicane that I just barely avoided being part of. So the early part of the race was a little bit chaotic for me, but I got stuck in a little bit of traffic. I was having a hard time getting past a couple guys, so I opted to pit early. I knew I was in with a good fuel strategy to make it to the end. I just needed to put it all together. So yeah, after that first stop, I got some clean track to go put down some laps, get a little bit more consistent, and then after the caution, made another mistake to take myself out of the lead. But the strategy worked very well to get myself an opportunity to fight for it right at the end. I was surprised that I was gaining on Navarro because we both had this similar, we had the same strategy. We both taken two lefts, so I was kind of surprised. He had newer tires, but I don't know if I was just running quicker, or the tires were more locked in for me towards the end. But yeah, I wasn't expecting to get him. He was blazing early on.
Yeah, we saw that speed out of you as well in that 90 machine here tonight. We saw you actually lead the race for a brief moment. So Minhang make a mistake there in one of the 90 degrees, and then he had another mistake they kind of compiled for him. We just spoke about how you were able to overcome your mistake here on the track. What is it about this Indy road course that you really feel like gave some of these drivers fits here tonight?
It's a simple layout, but it's technically challenging. Remerging, jumping onto the banking and Indy doesn't have a lot of banking, but the banking it has is enough to be a problem. So, going into turn 12, which is the last right-hander or the right-hander before you go into the last set of chicanes, or the last set of corners. Um, Merging up onto that banking is challenging because you could do it three different ways and not make the corner any of those ways. So, your braking zones adjust depending on when you merge up, when you go onto the banking. Um, Similar thing coming out of the final corner. I tagged the wall early on. I think it was like lap four, or two, 3 or 4, really early in the race. I tagged the wall in that final corner coming up onto the front stretch, and I put 10 15 seconds of damage on the car, and which didn't help my situation early either. But um, it's there's some technical things about this place that are a little bit more of a challenge, especially that chicane, that little S chicane on the backstretch. That the curb on the right is deadly if you get it wrong. And I had a couple close moments, but I was taking the risk because I wanted the reward, which ultimately I think I got today.
Yeah, I'd say second place finish is basically the best you can squeeze out of that lemon to make lemonade here tonight as Nick and Delicato wins the race. We spoke with John DeBar just before you. John just felt like once that four got around him, I just checked out. I just felt like you guys are chasing him week in and week out. But Johnny, I was speaking about on the broadcast too. You're really starting to stack up these consistent performances. You finished fourth last week, second here tonight. So really turning up the heat just a little bit as this regular season is closing out. I actually joked about on the broadcast it could be that FC Byron's on a winning streak that these performances are starting to stack up here. What do you think it is about your performances here the last couple of weeks that have really made that 90 machine run as strong as it has?
Well, this is our first season, obviously, but I came from a league or a couple leagues, early on, early part of this year, where I was running multiple days a week. So, I think that having racing those multiple days helped keep me focused, or at least better in the groove of things. Now I'm, hit or I'm running 1 2 days, one for sure running here, but sometimes 2 days a week. And I think it's just been trying to get myself into the rhythm of being prepared on race day to to perform. I've a lot of the races earlier on in the season, I ended up taking myself out of pretty early, either hitting the wall on lap 20 of a 200 lap race, or destroying the car in some ridiculous manner. Something that I shouldn't have done. Finding my limits too, probably. Um, I'm finding where I can and can't push the car. So I think it's a combo of a few things, but getting into the rhythm of running once a week, on top of just getting used to what I can and can't do with the car, because this is a completely different beast. The next gen car is completely different than any other of the NASCAR stock cars, and it's a challenge to learn, um, which I'm slowly getting there.
You are indeed, as you're starting to rack up those good performances that should lock you into the playoffs. But speaking about playoffs, we head to our second to last regular season race next week at Dover. How you feeling about that race, and do you think you can break through and maybe pick up a race victory, maybe snatch one from Nick and Delicato there at Dover?
Well, it would be nice if myself and or anybody else snatches one from Nick Delgado. But yeah, no, I don't know. I have absolutely no idea what to expect. I think Dover for me this season, other than Martinsville, those two tracks were big question marks. It's a tight course, and you can beat the car up quite a bit, but you can't hit the wall too hard. So, there's a limit. There's a fine line to pushing the car, over what it's capable of doing and paying the price for it. So, I don't know what to totally expect. I'm hoping to have a good run. I know I'm gonna be putting a little bit extra time into it just because I think qualifying will be important. Um, if we get a long green flag run, we're gonna see some tire wear, that's for sure. So, my history so far this season, when I get into those situations, I generally either get loose on exit and wall it, or just wall it straight up and rip the right front off the car. So I got to make sure I don't do that next week. But other than that, I'm gonna hope just to have good qualifying run and see what comes of it.
We're looking forward to seeing what that 90 machine has in store for the folks at home next week at Dover. But Johnny, with that big move on the front stretch, you finished second here tonight. And with that podium finish, we love to give you drivers the opportunity to shout out anybody that you have watching at home, any sponsors that made this race possible for you, and where people can find you on social media.
Well, first off, thank you guys for broadcasting it. We really appreciate it. Myself, included, of course. I want to thank Manny Reyes for sponsoring the series and Pro Air for sponsoring the Dash for Cash races. Davis Warren for sponsoring our chase. Yeah, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so I have that on the car. If you got a loved one, I think everybody in some way has been touched by it. So, I definitely happy to support that. But yeah, I just got to thank DJ Weeks and Zach Roethlisberger for helping me, set all this up for this week. And and yeah, thank everybody who came out, and thanks to everybody who's watching. It's been this race was a long one, a little bit longer than we anticipated, but I had a good time. So hopefully we put on a good show, especially to the finish there. I didn't know if I was going to get to him, but whew, I pushed it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, you pushed it indeed. You pushed that number 90 machine just ahead of John DeBarro there at the end. But coming home second here tonight, Johnny Eckert, we appreciate you taking the time with us here, my man. Congratulations on a top 2 finish here. These finishes are starting to get better and better as the weeks go by, so I'm sure it's going to be not too soon before we see that number 90 machine in victory lane. But Johnny, we appreciate it, man, and have a great rest of your week here, and we'll see you back here in the DSCR next Wednesday night, and hopefully that'll be your night, my man. As I just mentioned, you've gone from 4th to 2nd. Maybe victory lane's the next spot for that number 90 machine.
Yeah, cut it in half from last week to this. Maybe I'll cut it in half again with a little bit of luck, hopefully. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And that was Johnny Eckert. He's going to finish second here tonight after a big pass on that front stretch to pass John DeBarro. Did a great job of overcoming some mistakes throughout the race to finish second here tonight. But without further ado, it is time to speak with the most consistent driver this season at DSCR. Wins again here, Nick In-Dee-Car. And Nick, it's almost like Groundhog's Day. Bill Murray almost out there. Deja vu, Denzel Washington. We see the same thing week in and week out. You essentially take your time throughout the race. You lay in wait almost like a lion in the jungle. And then when it's time to pounce, you overtake, and then you just check out from the rest of the field. Take us through your point of view of tonight's race, and how are you able to put that Ford machine in victory lane once again?
Yeah, no, it's a struggle. The start was, I got lucky on the start, honestly. I probably should have been wrecked, and the car should have been killed, because I did what I did at Martinsville and started in first gear, and I just got too heavy on the gas. So, I put myself in a hole to start, but it kind of gave me a good chance to feel the car out and be consistent. I had some other mistakes that I wish I could have back, but overall in the end, that mid race caution really helped out, and I just stayed patient and waited for my shot.
Yeah, we actually spoke about that on the broadcast about how that that caution flag, yeah, it kind of benefited other people on the racetrack, but I really feel like it benefited you the most because it kind of put you back in the mix with the other drivers. We've seen what happens there when they put you back in the mix with other guys. But we did see you kind of battle with John DeBarro there for a little bit. Take us through that battle, and why did you wait until about, I'd say it was about 9 or 10 laps to go to actually make that move to overtake, because it looked like you were going step by step with him throughout this course.
Yeah, no, John was fast. Min was also really fast, so it was fun to race against them. I feel bad what happened to Min because he made the one small mistake and he didn't get he didn't have the yellow to help him out there. So those guys were really fast, and me and John had a really clean battle. That was actually a ton of fun. One thing that I say every week about this league, there may not be a lot of us, but at the same time, these guys are really clean. We all make our mistakes. It is what it is. But when it comes racing door to door, there's a lot of respect, and me and John, I feel like, did a really good job there. So credit to him. That was a ton of fun. I kind of just waited behind him, and not for him to make a mistake, but kind of just for my tires to come in and try to be as patient as possible and not mess up any corners. So once I got the shot, I feel like I was better at braking, so that kind of gave me an advantage. But I think that's why I waited so long. I just wanted to see what he was going to do.
This is just a quick, because we spoke about how you had a mistake there to start this race. You were able to overcome that first lap kerfunkle there that everybody had there, kind of spinning the tires. Did you ever feel any pressure during the race? We spoke about how that caution came out lap 17. After that, you kind of worked through the grid. You got up there to John. You were able to overtake. Did you feel any pressure in this race? Was there any anxiety that you might not win this race or get a good finish? Or was it just another drive for that Ford machine that if you can get to the front, this race is over with?
No, I mean, you always got to, these guys are fast. It's not a lay down thing. So at the first, the initial start where I spun, I was frustrated. I didn't know how much damage I had. And, I took out Barrett there and I felt really bad about that. So, yeah, it was a little frustrating, but I stayed consistent there, and I was looking at my lap times compared to everybody else, and Min put down a crazy good qualifying lap, so he had me worried there. He was really fast, so I just stayed consistent. My lap times were just on par with those guys up front, and like I said, that yellow saved me. So drove through the field there under green, and then had a shot for the win.
Yeah, Nick, and as mentioned, it's that strategy week in and week out there of kind of laying in wait. You kind of wait through the first two stages, you pick your opportunities, and you make the most of them, Nick. But, you've all but solidified your spot in the playoffs. We have 2 races left in the regular season. We head to Dover next week. How confident are you at that racetrack there, and do you think you can more of the same there at Dover?
Yeah, Dover actually is a track that I never liked, but I feel like I always ran well at, so I'll have to get time in the Cup car there. A lot of these tracks we go to, I've never driven the newer Cup car at, so I'm still trying to learn. I think this race and then Pocono last week were the only times I actually had past experience with the Cup car at that track. So it's a lot of learning. Dover's a hard track, and hopefully we'll just get a good finish. I say this to my teammates week in, week out. Sometimes there wins, but the goal is always top 5, top 10. If you get those and be consistent, you have a shot at the end of the year. So looking forward to it next week.
See, as I mentioned on the broadcast, Nick, I labeled you the Tom Brady of the DSCR, where you kind of get better with time as the race goes on, and you hear the competitiveness and the humbleness out of your voice as well. You're like, I just want to get a good finish, when more than likely you will lead that pack there at the end of the race, Nick. But you win the race here tonight at the road course. You waited your time. You overtook John DeBarro there for the race win. You ended up winning it, I'd say, by about 3 or 4 seconds there. John had his own battle there with Johnny Eckert to end the race. But Nick, I think with the amount of times you've won here on 3Y TV in the DSCR, you kind of know the drill. We'd love to give you that opportunity to shout out anybody that you might have had watching, any sponsors on the side of the race car that make these race victories just keep tallying up, and where people can find you on social media.
Yeah, you see it on the car every week. Sam Drace Photo, he's a great friend of mine. He does motorsports photography. So check him out, Instagram, Twitter, go follow him. As long as our team, Shift Esports, we had Dallas and Tyler with us tonight. So follow us on Twitter and Instagram as well. And then these beautiful paint schemes, our very own Seth Rawls, who does race with us from week to week, he makes them. So if you need a paint scheme, go contact SR Design on Twitter or Instagram, and he'll get one made for you. Along with that, thank you guys for putting this on every week. It means a lot more. We can go back and look at these races, and you guys just make it more entertaining. So thank you guys, and thank you, Johnny, for putting this on every week. I know we didn't have a handful of people here tonight, but the competition's still good, and he puts a lot of work into this. So thank you guys.
Well, thank you, Nick and Delicato, and big congratulations for picking up the race win here tonight. I believe it's either your 5th or 6th win on the season here in the DSCR. The race victories just keep tallying up, my man. But once again, congratulations. You conquered the Indy Road Course here tonight. We'll see you here next week at Dover Downs. I'm sure you'll continue that momentum and confidence into next week's race as well. We appreciate you taking the time with us here, Nick, and congratulations, and go celebrate a little bit here this weekend.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Have a good weekend. Stay safe.
Yes, sir. And that was Nick and Delicato. He wins again, once again here in the DSCR. And Carlos, we just spoke to our top 3 finishers there. And it's almost interesting to hear Nick and Delicato say that he just hopes for a good finish next week. Even though he has about 6 victories on the season, he's more... Speaking with the other drivers, he's the fastest car week in and week out. But you still hear the humbleness, you still hear the oh shucks out of Nick and Delicato there. And I like that mindset week in and week out because he doesn't come in with too much confidence. He comes in with, I just want to get a good finish. And he gets a good finish week in and week out, winning the majority of the races this season.
Yeah, and Dover's going to be a very hectic race for sure. It's a very self-cleaning track, so any mistakes that could happen in front of you, there's a good chance you might get caught up into it.
Yes, indeed. As Nick and Delicato wins the road course here at the Indy Grand Prix here tonight on 3Y TV. With Johnny Eckert coming home second. He overtakes John DeBarro there on the front stretch. And, of course, John DeBarro coming home third. We want to appreciate those guys for taking the time with us here to get those race interviews out of the way there with our top 3. But once again, we want to thank those wonderful sponsors here in the DSCR, Manny Rays and Pro Air, for making all of this action possible, making these broadcasts possible, making these Dash for Cash races possible. And again, Nick and Delicato sweeps all those Dash for Cash races this season, as we only have 2 races left in the regular season here in the DSCR. We go to Dover next week and then end the regular season at Charlotte. But for myself, William Tiller, my co-host, and the man behind the decks, Carlos Acosta, we want to appreciate everybody for tuning in here tonight. Once again, Nick and Delicato comes home with the race victory. We want to invite everybody to check out 3Y TV tomorrow night in the Oscar series. You'll see a lot of these same drivers racing that series tomorrow night as well. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in here tonight. We want to wish everybody a great night, and we'll see everybody back here next Wednesday at Dover Downs.